morning, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Del Rio City Council. It's Tuesday, March 27th at 6 o'clock. If you can have roll call, please.
Councilmember Buckley?
Here.
Councilmember Lintel? Here. Councilmember Allian?
Here.
Vice Mayor Clark? Here. Mayor Edelman?
Here. I would ask our Vice Mayor, Kristen Clark, if she would do the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now call on Reverend Bob Elton of our Very Own Church in the Oaks to lead us in the invocation.
Almighty God, we know that as I drove to work this morning, carefully observing the speed limit on Carlton Drive, but I remember how much I love this community of Del Rio Oaks. Please bless every person here tonight and impart your wisdom and your grace to every thought, word, and decision. Thank you for your presence here. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. I won't mention the old motto of Del Rio Oaks many years ago was, our city may be small, but try driving through our jurisdiction without being attracted. So, anyhow. I would ask the council's indulgence if we could move item 9B, which is the appointed administrative hearing officer from the old business consent agenda. Anybody have any objection to that? No. Okay, in that case, it is moved. Okay, next we have presentations. First we have Del Rio Citizens Action Group Volunteer Recognition. Mr. David Kimball, he's the president of the group. He's going to be coming forward and making a few comments and presentations. The Citizens Action Group is the only officially recognized volunteer group in the city of Del Rio Oaks. It's been in existence for about 25 years now. Basically came together with citizens that wanted to make our city a better place. The city, since Proposition 13, has been hurting as far as revenues because we're a residential city. The Proposition 13 capped the residential amount of the taxes coming in. And so we had to do a lot with very little. And citizens came to the forefront, formed an organization, and they've been working very, very hard ever since. David's the latest president, I think the best president that organization's ever had. The last meeting we had about a week and a half ago, we had one of the largest numbers of citizens getting together to basically ask for help of the city anybody possibly could. So again, David, if you come forward, you've got the floor. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The nicest thing about volunteers is that they don't expect any recognition. And that's why they're going to get some tonight. I just have 200-300 names to read. So. No presentations. Councilwoman Pat Lintel had this idea of kind of expressing not only our gratitude for those who have volunteered over the years, but who are currently doing various things that you might not know about that are going on. And it's important for you to know and to know the people who are doing it. And you'll note that it includes not only citizens who are not on the city council or a mayor or the city manager, but yes, it includes them who come to all our meetings and so on, but also doing things that get things done. And without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So I'll start at the top and be as quick as I can. Those who regularly attend our meetings include myself, my wife Barbara, Terry Neese, Sandy Shelby, George Jackshaw, Jerry Edelman, Scott Donaldson, Dino Pick, our city manager, Jeff Hoyne, our police chief, Claudia Campbell, Dorothy Souza, Julie Webb, Marianne Pratt, and Pat Lintel. We meet on the second Monday of every month in Old Town Hall, and everyone is always invited. We have something called the Pony Express. That's how you get the editions of the Acorn that are published a couple times a year, and the flyers for our city events. Terry Adams has chaired that for many years, and now she is assisted by Pat Lintel to organize it. And the people who do the Pony Express hop on their horses and get things done. They're Claudia Campbell and Steve Harris, Sydney Richardson, Sandy Shelby, Chris Vincent, Julie Webb, Denise Wood. Association members who do that as well are Scott Donaldson and George Jackshaw. Among the city council members who help deliver those items are Dennis Allian, Kristen Clark, Jerry Elan, and Pat Mantel. At our various events, including the city picnic, an ice cream social, and the Santa's workshop, as well as organizing the annual ability for you to get rid of everything in your attic and so on, that's the garage sale. Jerry Elan, Dino Pick, George Jackshaw, Dorothy Souza, myself, and my wife Barbara, Josephine Wellborn, who is a citizen in PG and a friend of ours, Pat Lintel, Terry Neese, Sandy Shelby, Julie Webb, her husband Drew Webb, Samila Arash, and Renato Borginan from Marina via Brazil. Much of the planning for our events is due to Terry Neese and Sandy Shelby, who really dig in. Recently, Sandy redid our whole storeroom, and put in new shelves and everything, and it's just really finally organized so we can find everything that we need. Terry Neese also makes beautiful gift baskets at Christmas, which we deliver to those who can't get out often. Our DRO beautification events include the Rosita Oaks Island, which is at the foot of Rosita by the Oaks Church. DLI students under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Chris Walker really helped with starting off that planning and put in chips and so on. Also residents included Scott Donaldson, George Jackshaw, myself, Julie Webb, Drew Webb, and our city manager Dino Pick. At the Quindale Triangle, that was beautified with Scott Donaldson's help. He was in the tree with young lads almost all day, cleaning out the olive tree. It really looks beautiful there. Beth Benoit also has adopted the maintenance of that area. She's a neighbor in that area, and a local church group. Lawson Cena Circle, Alice Morrison adopted the maintenance of that area, and with the help of another neighbor, Eva Moravec, has planted there. The Lawson Encinos Island has been adopted by Dennis Allian, and he's doing his work there. Owl houses in the park were contributed and built and planned by Eagle Scout Nicholas Southern. Upcoming beautification efforts that you'd like to know about include the corner of Rosita and Canyon Del Rey, where we're going to include a Del Rey Oaks welcome sign, as well as oak trees. We're also going to do the same at the corner of Canyon Del Rey and Work and Carlton, adding a DRO sign, welcoming people to the city in that area, and beautifying that island. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Eagle Scouts. Under the direction of Todd Muck, the Eagle Scout coordinator for the Eagle Scouts in the area, Scouts are working to become Eagle Scouts and organizing their wannabe Eagles, who are a little below them in rank, to help work on projects for the beautification of Del Rey Oaks. We're lucky to have them volunteer to do this. They're coming from Monterey and all around the area to help out. One of the first projects will be new stairway to the Old Town Hall. Everyone will applaud that, I'm sure. Nicholas Southern's father, Sergeant Major Vince Southern, is also interested in working with those Eagle Scouts to help guide them along the way. Also, I should mention that Maury at the Del Rey Oak Gardens has donated wood chips and pavers for around the kiosk on Rosita Road. We thank you all for all your help, and all of you are invited. We have some brochures that will be on the table about our organization. If you can give 1 hour a year, or 1 hour a month, or 1 hour a week, it's all appreciated. There's always something to do. Thanks so much.
David, thank you very much for all the work, also your leadership. I've been around for a long time in that organization. We've never had a leader as dedicated and hardworking as David Kimball. We would not have a city picnic, holiday party, ice cream social, or a citywide garage sale without the Citizens Action Group. It's interesting, the citywide garage sale, as an aside, started about 12 years ago. was basically, everybody knows Roy Sale George Jackshaw, the chair of our planning commission. We were having coffee one day, he said, you know, we ought to have a city-wide garage sale. I said, yeah, right, George, we're really gonna have that. He took the bull by the horns, organized the whole thing. We're one of the few cities in the entire state that has a citywide garage sale. People come from all over, from San Jose, all the way down to King City, because we see the messages they come in. So again, one person can make a big difference. So comments, questions by members of our council?
Yes, I'd like to thank David for the nice presentation. And also, David and Barbara have been working years, and it's really because of them that the Del Rio Citizens Action Group is a success. David has tirelessly and successfully gone about recruiting people from the outside, working with our city manager on the beautification and many other things. And thank you so much. And
Yes, Chris.
And I'd like to thank you also, and I know Carlos Dorks is here, his wife was previously on the action committee as a president, and there's been a lot of people that have been dedicated to this group for many, many years, and some have gotten burned out because there wasn't the help that we all needed. And so there's a lot of volunteers here that weren't mentioned, that were even before your time, and I would like to thank them also for all the work that they're doing.
Other comments by council members? Saying none out to the public, any comments by members of the public? Okay, back to council, just to sum it up again, thank you all. I'd like to encourage everybody, we meet once a month. David mentioned the time, any question, if you forget about that, ask any member of the staff, they'll tell you when it is. Old Town Hall, 6 o'clock, and usually we have pizza. So it's a chance to come down and see your neighbors. All we ask is if you come down like 1 hour a month. You want to show up and help cook at the picnic, or you want to help with Santa's workshop, helping Santa up the stairs or whatever else, please show up. So again, encourage everybody, this is an outstanding organization, really good people. We look forward to socializing first and working second. We get a lot of work done anyhow. So.
I learned years ago that Americans don't like to go anywhere unless there's food, so I always I try to provide it.
Sounds good. Thank you, David.
You might make a few friends with that.
Yeah, maybe,
When you go there, you might make a few friends.
exactly. So again, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I do have a comment. I also like to recognize that David is a fellow MSU, Michigan State smart.
And just to build on that, he got his alumni association to come in and help work on Del Rio Oaks' park. So he had his alumni association, not in Del Rio, to come in here and do a lot of manual labor. It was a big party afterwards, I believe, right, David?
Yeah, we'll tell you about that later.
You're covered by our bail bond account. Okay. Okay, next we have, again, thanks, David. We have Monterey Salinas Transit Community Update, our very own Del Rio's resident, longtime resident, Carl Sador, who's in charge of MST, so we can give the update. Carl, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff, and members of the public. I'm Carl Sador, CEO of Monterey Salinas Transit District, 17-year resident of Del Rio Oaks, state of Michigan refugee, recovering Del Rio Citizens Action Group spouse. So here today to provide a community update as far as what Monterey Salinas Transit has been up to in the past year and what we have planned for the future, and just to provide some facts about MST. A lot of you see our buses going by, coming down Highway 215, and maybe wonder about where they're going and who's on there. So with that, just a few fast facts about MST. What many people don't realize is the vast area of service that we cover on a daily basis. From Templeton to the south to San Jose Airport, to the north, 1/5 of the coast of California is in our service area. We travel multi-millions of miles each year, carrying our passengers to work, to school, to medical appointments, to training, to worship, wherever they need to go. We will get them there all throughout the Central Coast region. Some more information about what we do. We have our Our service is split into two types of service. Our standard fixed route bus service, where you see a bus stop sign and the bus, will stop and pick you up where you go there and wait for the bus. Or the MST Rides program, which is for persons with severe disabilities that prohibit them from actually getting to a bus stop or being able to ride the bus. Vast majority of our passengers for last year, 4.3 million, rounding up, were carried on the fixed route service, and about 130,000 on the MST rides. Now, we count a passenger every time someone passes through that front door and puts a fare in the box. So that's either total 4.4 million trips. That's either one person riding 4.4 million times or 4.4 million people riding once. It's somewhere in between there. We don't know exactly, because we don't keep track of exactly each person. They put the cash in the box, or they swipe their card, and we count them. So total, a little over $40 million in operating expenses. Again, most of that is spent on the fixed route bus side, but a considerable amount is on the MST Rides program as well. We've, unlike many of our peers throughout the state and around the country, we've had growing ridership. You'll read a lot of stories about our neighbors to the north in Santa Clara, San Francisco, or down in LA. The ridership has been dropping. Our ridership has been growing. And actually, right now, we're on track to exceed the 2017 number about 5%. So we'll be around 4.6 million by the end of this fiscal year, based on results through the end of February. So we're doing very, very well as far as ridership is concerned. We go a long way. We're very safe. We were nominated, or actually won the award a couple years back as the safest public transit operator in the country. About 232,000 miles between preventable accidents, and that's a distance that's equal to what a famous fictional television bus driver used to say, to the moon. That's how far our drivers travel between accidents. We are within 5 minutes of our scheduled arrival time, 89% of the time. How do we know that? Each of our buses have a GPS, and they are communicating via satellite back to our home base every 15 seconds. We're getting an update on where our bus is. And so we know exactly where every bus is and whether they're on time or not. And right now we're running 89% of the time within 5 minutes. That's pretty good. 91% of our riders rate our services good or excellent. And we've been recognized at the local level, state level, and nationally as an innovative leader with various projects that we have going on. Where does our money come from, that $41 million? Most of it comes from state sales taxes and local share of state sales tax, that 57% of that. Then we have another 19% comes from the federal excise tax on gasoline. It's 18 cents or so per gallon. 20%, so of that 18 cents, about 3.5 cents of that is distributed to transit agencies around the country, and you get a share there via formula. About the passenger fares, the money that the passengers put into the fare box, only covers about a quarter of the cost to provide that service. And so these people are most of our passengers are very low income, whether they're seniors, persons with disabilities who can't drive a car or on a fixed income. So we try to keep the fares at a reasonable level for them, but we do need to get some money for the services that we provide. Where does all that money go? Well, mostly the labor cost, the cost of our drivers and our mechanics. It's all good local jobs for our economy. I like to tell people, with transit, you can't outsource a bus driver's job to Bangalore or a mechanic's job to Mumbai. You have to do the jobs here locally. So these are local jobs in the county. And the purchase transportation piece, that other big piece, I should have mentioned earlier, we purchase from a private company transportation services. And the way you can tell, if I run back here real quick, the fixed route piece All the big buses that you see, the large buses, those are run directly by MST, direct employees who work for MST out of our Ryan Ranch offices. We have about 250 of those. Any of the small buses that you see for the MST rides or for some of our other routes that use small buses, those are operated by a contractor. We go out to bid and competitively bid that so that we get as best deal for the taxpayer's dollar as we can. So that's that purchase transportation piece there. And then we see fuel and services or other makeup for this budget. So recently, some of our accomplishments have been deployment of our real-time bus arrival information system. This was a big deal because it provides Uber-style information right to your cell phone as far as when is your bus going to arrive. If you download the real-time system, you can look at your smartphone and see where your bus is and when it's going to arrive at your bus stop. You can plan your trip, where you want to go, in real time, telling you, if the bus is running a little bit behind, it will tell you that. As you're walking to the bus stop and the bus is going to arrive and it's calculating arrival, your phone will actually tell you to hurry up. Yes, you don't miss your bus. It's quite amusing. So that is also deployed out not just to smartphones, but if you have just a regular cell phone, a text-enabled phone, you can get that information sent out to you via text. You can go online via web using Google Maps. And you can also just the old-fashioned way, call in to 888-MST-BUS1, and that same system is an automated system that will tell you when the next bus is arriving at your bus stop, just using a regular phone, even if you're not real techy. We've got some new funds to build a bus facility in South Monterey County, where we have some of our largest growth in ridership in South County communities. And we've got the first of 33 new buses have just went into service this past weekend. We've got 33 new buses arriving this year, 2 zero-emission buses, all electric, and 5 new trolleys. We've also implemented some new discount programs for seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities, and new services for those folks funded through the Measure Q sales tax measure that was passed in 2014. So there's some information about the MST real-time. You, at each of our bus stops, you see the 1, 2, 3, 4. Each bus stop has a unique number. You text that bus stop number to the 25370, or you call MST Bus 1 and enter that bus stop number, and it will tell you exactly when your next bus is going to arrive, accurate to within a minute. And this is how you can see that. There's a text version, what you see online, Google Maps. The app is also pictured there. We celebrated 15 years of service to South County communities. When I first arrived here in June of 2000, we did not travel south of Salinas. We started 15 years ago going to Gonzales and now go all the way down to Templeton, actually via Fort Hunter Liggett. And we're carrying over nearly 250,000 passengers annually now in the South County cities. So we celebrated that this year and did some outreach to those communities with that campaign. We've been implementing Measure Q. To remind you, Measure Q is the first county-wide sales tax of any kind passed in Monterey County. There was 1/8 of 1% sales tax to protect and maintain transit services for veterans, seniors, and persons with disabilities. We passed that in November 2014 with 72.5% support. So that was a great advancement for our transportation services, and I think it paved the way for Measure X and it to become successful in 2016. So we put together a 5-year plan of a variety of programs that we're putting into place now. We have providing free annual bus passes for veterans. We have discounts for veterans. We are provided special routes that are going to the DOD-DVA hospital in Marina from Salinas and from the Monterey Peninsula. We're kicking off a volunteer driver reimbursement system for areas that are outside of the MST rides area. If you're in a rural area, say Arroyo Seco or out in way deep in Carmel Valley, and you're not accessible to MST services, find a neighbor or family member who can take you to where you need to go, we will reimburse them for their mileage through this program. So you can call MST, and for those people who are outside of our service area, we are using Measure Q funds to help reimburse the volunteer drivers program. So Measure X, I mentioned earlier, just passed in November 2016. Mostly a program to support road projects, but there are a number of transit-specific projects that will be funded. Highway 1 Rapid Bus, which we're calling the SURF, is an extension of the Jazz Bus Rapid Transit that runs from the Aquarium through to Sand City. The SURF would run along the Monterey Branch line all the way up to Marina, outside of the freeway, and in some of the areas using the shoulder of the freeway based on legislation that MST had passed. So we have funding we've started the environmental work on that with some state funds, and we have $15 million of that allocated through Measure X that will come to us, and we're applying for a variety of state and federal funds to complete that project in, say, the next 5 years or so. Is where we think that project will come in. We're building a new facility in King City. There's $25 million that are allocated to support that, as well as upgrading our 40-year-old facility that is in the city of Saline. So we have some new facilities. We're rehabbing some very old facilities, put some modern amenities in more to put in infrastructure that will support electric buses, zero-emission buses, and just some modern working conditions for our employees. Currently in our work areas in Monterey and Salinas, our employees have to work outside on our buses out in the rain. These facilities will provide them enough space where they can work inside in their actual garage on these large buses. There are also programs in Measure X, again, more services for seniors and persons with disabilities, that's in addition to what MST is already doing. So there are those programs in place. So what does the future hold for MST? What does Madame Transit see in her crystal ball? We will be kicking off, I'm hoping this month, April 27th is the last date I have, our rehab operations and maintenance facility right here on One Ryan Ranch Road, right on the Delray Oaks border. We'll be opening that. It's been under construction for a year. That's been built with State of California cap and trade grants and other state funds to rehab that very old facility. Designed for 38 buses, where we'll have capacity to operate and maintain 85 buses out of that facility, and that's done. As again, I mentioned the King City facility and then the Salinas facility. We're looking to upgrade those facilities. We have the Salinas Mobility Center that we're going to be opening up in July. And what that will be is a facility dedicated, again, to seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities. Most of our MST rides, trips, over half of them generate or start or end in the city of Salinas. Over a third of those are dialysis related in the Salinas Valley. And so the Mobility Center is there to train people how to use our services, and then also to teach people who use the MST Rides program how to use our other services, like our taxi vouchers program, like our regular fixed route bus program. And they'll be training facilities there as well, teaching people how to use the bus, how to use our systems. Putting in some bathrooms down in downtown Salinas later this summer. And then I mentioned the Highway 1 Rapid Bus Corridor, which we call the SURF, probably 2023 is what we're looking at, build out of that project. So for challenges, bus driver recruitment, believe it or not, it's hard to find someone that has 5 years of driving experience, just 5 years of a driver's license. Doesn't have to be a commercial driver's license. Just a driver's license that's 3 years of clean driving, no tickets, and can pass a drug test. We do all the training. You're paid during training. We provide benefits. We have a great benefit package. But we're having difficulty hiring people who want to do this type of work. We actually have funding to expand services. We're just short of drivers. If I could get more drivers, we could provide more service. The National Highway Trust Fund, I mentioned it earlier, the 18 cents per gallon of gas. It's been in place since 1991. When gas was $1.11 per gallon. Now gas is on, $3.35, $3.40 per gallon. And it's still 18 cents per gallon. And cars get a lot better mileage. You have electric cars who drive on the roads that don't pay anything into the National Highway Trust Fund now. So this trust fund is basically insolvent. It does not pay for itself. So we get caught up in passing out annual transportation budgets in Congress before we can get our money. We don't know how well that works. So unfortunately, we used to be able to get our money like clockwork. Now we have to wait for Washington, D.C. to get their act together before we get our money. And sometimes we're waiting a good long time for that to happen. That creates cash flow issues for us and doesn't allow us to be as efficient as we'd like to be. The state is putting out some very aspirational zero-emission bus regulations, which we're not opposed to. We're a leader in zero-emission buses. We put out the first inductively charged trolley in the country, and we have 2 more electric buses coming from the city of Salinas. However, the timeline that the state is looking at, they want us to buy 25% of our buses. They want to mandate that they be electric buses by 2020. That's not very far away. They want 50% by 2025. And frankly, we have issues with whether the actual industry is able to produce that many electric buses that quickly. There's a lot of buses in California. And not sure, so we're pushing back on the state to, not that we don't want to have 100% zero emission buses, it's just how we get there. We'd like to have some flexibility. Then there's some very well-funded efforts to repeal current state gas tax funds, which generate also money for your own city of Delray Oaks streets and roads projects. It generates about $2.5 million per year for MST services as well. Probably about $30 million to the whole county of Monterey for streets and roads programs. And that's going to be on a November ballot for repeal. And if you think your roads are in good enough shape, and if you think we have enough transportation, then that's fine. And I can't legally advocate for something, but that's something to keep an eye on. So that's what's going on with your transit district in Monterey County. We have to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. Excellent update. Much appreciated. Questions or comments by the council?
Just a comment. I use MST, had a great experience with both the buses and the drivers. It's just great to see all the background of the numbers. So thank you for sharing this with us, and I think it's just a great part of our transportation infrastructure.
Thank you. Well said. Members of the public, any questions or comments by members of the public? Back to the council, just 2 things. I also, a couple months ago, used MST for the first time. And Salinas through all sorts of routes. And you know something? It's amazing. It works. You get on your cell phone, and you go through there, you know where it's going to go, what it's going to cost. They also have discounts too. For senior citizens, obviously not me, but they do have discounts. And it actually worked, and I was amazed just how well it worked, as well or better than what I've seen in Europe when I've been around in Europe. Also, your leadership, the Measure Q, when Carl proposed putting Measure Q on the ballot during the recession, we thought it was crazy. People they did some analysis and so forth, and there's no way that's going to pass. But it was Carl and his team went out there and basically education campaign, told everybody why they needed it and so forth. It passed handily, and again, due to your leadership. So again, thank you, Carl. Let's have a hand for the
Crystal Clark is our most experienced member on the MSD board. It's been with us for, 15 years on the MSD board, thereabouts. And Pat is an able alternate who shows up as well as for our tax authority. Meeting.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a presentation on Florida recreational trails and greenways. Dr. Fred Watson will be giving this. He and his friend Scott Waltz, 2 of them have been fighting for years and years and many years to get the 4-tag project going through. And I know I'm on CAMC and tried to help where I could on that. But it was an uphill battle. They were successful. Without those 2, it would not exist. And the 4-tag itself will be a huge benefit for Del Rio. So we go right through our property. It really enhance the ecotourism. It will make, it will really put Del Rio, so it'll tie us in with the northern part and also out to the coast. So thanks for taking your time coming out here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Especially like the bit where you said Scott is my friend. Especially that's how it started. A friend and I kind of saw it, something that we thought should be done and wasn't being done, and no one else seemed to want to do it. So we said, well, let's see if we can come up with an idea that people can get behind. This was about 4 or 5 years ago, and so FORTAG, the Affordable Direct Home Greenway, is that idea. So I'll explain a little bit about what it is. The vision is that it's proposed to be a 30-mile system of regionally connected recreation trails and greenways, paved recreation trails and greenways, that connects communities to open spaces, to and through open spaces. So it's about going for a bike ride or a hike in a safe, accessible way from your house or your place of work into a little bit of open, pleasant environment, back again, or maybe it's on your way to work. If you're commuting, you're traveling not right there next to the cars on the highway or in a car, but you can actually take a pleasant bike ride or walk between home and work. Those kinds of ideas. So making the journey itself being part of your experience, being a pleasant experience, not just a way of getting to the other end. We have a number of values that we kind of put down very early on in designing FORTAG. It needs to be, connecting people to open space, as I said, it needs to be pleasant, as I said. It needs to be usable by anyone. And we're pretty serious about that. There's a lot of trails out there that only a few of us can use. We're trying to create trails that everybody can use. It needs to have room for everybody. So at the same time, multiple different types of users need to have space to be able to use the trail in a complementary way. It needs to be complementary to the built environment. So it's not entirely about open space. There are places where a network like this needs to start and go through some pretty dense built-up environments, but we want to do that in a complementary way. The most obvious example would be to go look at places where you might have an opportunity to have a trail-side cafe or something like that right next to the trail. We've got a few examples of that in our community. Or if you're building houses, you want to front the houses onto a trail and greenway and not have the trail kind of scurrying along around the backs of the houses, things like that. It needs to have loops, so that no matter where you are or where you live along the route, you can jump on and go all the way around in one direction and never have to retrace your steps on that particular journey. Maybe tomorrow you'll do the same thing again, but somehow that feels different. So all the journeys can be loops and not out and backs if you're using it in a recreational mode, which it does. It needs to be connected. There can't be any spots where it just stops and you can't go any further. It needs to have no red flags, which is to say everybody along the route needs to be okay with it and ideally very supportive of it. We can't have a place where someone just doesn't want the trail to go. And where possible, it's intended to function as a habitat corridor. There's a few critical places where habitat corridors are kind of needed, and without something this big to kind of move along a little bit, we wouldn't have that connectivity. And so where there's a need and an opportunity to do that, we're using the greenways to serve that function. Here's a map of what it actually looks like geographically. You've got, just to orient yourself, Marina is here, and Monterey is down here, and then Salinas is over there. And the thick green is the paved trail that's not yet there that we're proposing to build. The blue is the existing coastal rec trail. So in some way you can say we're extending the coastal rec trail inland towards the former Fort Ord open spaces in this system of loops. So that's a 13-mile loop there, it goes all the way out to the Salinas River. This is a 5-mile loop around CSUMB there. This is about a 14 or 15-mile loop around Seaside, and of course Delray Oaks is right here. And this is a little spur that goes off from down into Ryan Ranch right there. This is the same thing, but with people added to the landscape. So the black dots here are where we live, and the pink is where we have commercial districts, and the blue is where we have schools. So by design, it's constantly in that interface between communities and open spaces. We're always close to it, we can always use it to get to an open space or through an open space. What does it actually look like? What does this kind of trail look like in the ground? Well, it's paved, recreation trail and greenway. So that means you've got this kind of situation here. This is a really good example. I think it's our coastal rec trail out there in the Fort Ord Dunes. that's in a place where there's a lot of space. So this particular trail here, it's kind of a road and a trail at the same time. It's very, very wide, much wider than most of Fortag would be, and there's lots and lots of space. But it's a good example of the idea of lots of different folks being able to get out there and just enjoy moving through around the space close to home. This is a different version. This one is a little narrower trail. It's about 8 feet wide right there. You're in more of a built-up environment. But you're separated from that roadway there. It's pleasant. These people look like they're enjoying themselves. They're not having to look, around the shoulder for the cars coming and things like that. This is a really crucial photo. It really illustrates a key customer, if you like. The idea that you could just put your kids on a bike, training wheels, pigtails, and if that kid hooks to the right there and just sort of disappears off to the side of the trail, they are not going to hit the car. That's a key thing. There can be no place in this system where there's a risk that your kid would actually ride into traffic. And if you want, you can sit there on your cell phone and do it while they just learn how to ride the bike. Now, folks with mobility impairments should be able to use the entire system, the entire 30 miles. For us, at this level of design and planning right now, that boils down to gradients. Planning the route so that the gradient is gentle the whole way. There's a state park standard for accessible trails and the gradients, the combinations of gradients that you need to achieve in order for that to occur. Of course, once you make it wheelchair accessible like this, you're making it accessible to far more than just folks in wheelchairs. There's a lot of us who don't really feel like going out the trail if there's a bit of a steep hill there. A lot of us are in that category. So we're younger or older, we've got an injury or something. Making it accessible really opens it up to a very large fraction of the community. Here's some examples of a narrower trail. This one's 8 foot. So the vast majority of Fortag is going to be 12 feet wide, paved. There's some bits in Delray Oaks, so really the only exception to that rule is in Delray Oaks, where we're thinking 8 foot is what we should do. And so this is an example of what an 8 foot paved trail looks like in a sort of densely wooded natural environment. Here's another one. This one is asphalt concrete, like a typical trail. This one is a composition called granite creek. It's like concrete, but it's made of decomposed granite, so it's called granite creek. That's a brand name patented by someone in Carmel Valley. So it kind of looks a bit like a decomposed granite trail, but it's got the performance of pavement, which means you can have the skinny tiles that have a wheelchair on it. You're not going to have potholes and things like that. There's another 8 foot trail through some woodland, the same one, some different emergency use. Fortag is kind of a parallel effort now. So Scott and I, we're essentially volunteers. We happen to be professors at CSU, but 98% of what we do on Fortag is volunteer work, and a tiny bit of overlaps with our day jobs. We kind of came up with the idea with a few colleagues, Margaret Davis, Gail Morton, and Bruce Delgado in particular, about 4 years ago. But since about 2 years ago, this has been picked up big time by TAMSI, the Transportation Agency. First with the staff and then the board. And so the result of that now is that it's a $40 million project, and we've secured $21 million in funding for that. And that's entirely through the efforts of the TAMSI staff and board. The 20 of those 21 million is through Measure X. So we worked with the staff on the board to get included in the Measure X package. I think a lot would opine that Fortag being part of Measure X was actually a pretty important part of Measure X passing overall. And so that's been very successful. Since then, we've got an additional $1 million from state funding, and half of that is leveraged by the virtue of the fact that we have the 20. So as a county, by voting ourselves to tax ourselves to create this transportation package, we are eligible for some state funds that we were not previously eligible for. So that's kind of, you could say that's a return on investment right there. And right out of the gate, we're only about a year and a half out of passing that measure. When we work, it's with everybody. We've met with over 70 organisations, 250 individual sit-down meetings with folks from those organisations to really figure this thing out, make sure it's possible, make sure it's as good as it possibly can be. So where did it go? In Delray Oaks. This is that original map, the whole system there, all 30 miles. The red box is Delray Oaks. And that's a zoom in of the Canyon Delray area. So here's the Tides Hotel down here on the border of Monterey and Seaside. Here's Roberts Lake and Laguna Grande, the Holiday Inn is right there. This is Camden Del Rey, of course, and the city of Del Rey is kind of a funny shape, of course. It's right there. And then this will be Stone Creek right there, and Lion Ranch down there. And forte on this map is it's this thickish green line running along there. It changes colour a few times to indicate different things. So if I just walk through this, through the big picture, we're peeling off of the existing coastal trail down near the Holiday Inn, coming through Laguna Grande, creating a new exit point for Laguna Grande that's much safer than the current one. And then we're jumping to Del Rey right there at the Safeway. Zoom in a little. Sorry about a different colour scheme, but now here's the Safeway. Here's City Hall right here, here's Stone Creek right there, here's Lion Ranch right there. So we come past the Safeway, down into Work Memorial Park, which a lot of people know as the old driving range and the new garden centre. And then along Angelus Way into Del Rey Park, where you've got the playground there and the basketball court and the dog park and City Hall, of course. And then we cross, ideally, underneath Highway 218, right at Carlton. And then we go through the Frog Pond, and through the Frog Pond, well, not the actual pond, not the water. Along where the trailer is right now, and I'll show a photo of that. Underneath General Jim Moore Boulevard. Then into this parcel, which is, you could call it the eastern half of Frog Pond. Frog Pond is not just this piece, it's now also this piece. But access to that is not yet being provided as an official thing. So we're doing that. And then we cross South Boundary Road right about here. And then we wend our way up with accessible gradient all the way up to the National Monument boundary. This is the National Monument here, and this is the boundary of the National Monument. On the way through here, this is the roughly 300 acres or so of city land that was acquired when Fort Ord was closed. It's all developable, but the idea is whatever happens there, it's going to be a great thing to have in conjunction with that, the bike trail and the greenway through it. And this is the place where we would ideally like to run that trail, but exactly how that works out depends on the city's desires in that whole area. Once you get up to the monument, then you're kind of on the top of the world. You see the ocean from there, it's beautiful. You can take a left and head all the way along the boundary through Seaside up to Marina, or you take a right, go down past the Monument Harvey Resort, which is the post thing, and then down into Lion Ranch through Rancho Salcedo there. In the long term, we're looking at going all the way up to Laguna Seca. That's the very long term. You can also do a little baby loop here. This is what we're thinking of as the Del Rey Oaks loop. So as well as the big loops, there's all these little spurs that we've planned. I'll come back to you for a second. If you look on this map, there's little thin green lines coming in, the marina there, coming out of Seaside Bay, coming into Seaside right there. There's these little spurs that come off the trunk and go into each community. You might call them spokes, so they're weird. So if I zoom in a little, here's a spur that could occur along Carlton up to Mescal, and then either with a bridge over Jim Moore in the long term or in the short term in that place where North-South Road used to be, up to the crossing at Hillby, and then out along this little spur up to the monument boundary and then down the Forte trunk. So that's about a 3-mile loop right there, which could all be safe, accessible, paved, and pleasant. And 3 miles is a really nice number. If you just want to go for an easy jog or a little hike or a little adventure with your kid on the weekend, that's a good number right there. So it's a pretty exciting possibility to be looking at that. In photos, this is what the same thing looks like. So this is Safeway, and boundary of the city, and Highway 218. And I'll come back on some of the detail. I'll give the overall look at things first, so I'll come back to that. Here's Highway 218, but we go down here into Work Memorial Park. Down here. And then this is Work Memorial Park, which is functioning right now as an access corridor for the back of the garden centre, and can still do that before taking place as well. And then we can go either side of the garden centre. This is one side, and The other side's kind of cool, but this is the side that's easiest because we have this existing little road right here. This is looking back across War Memorial Park. If you were going in the uphill side of the garden centre, you would have the four-tag line coming down here, which I kind of like because there's a little moment here where in the morning you look out over this and the mist is rising off these little wetlands, and you really start to imagine that beautiful little park in here in this very flood-prone land that isn't much use for anything else. Then we go on to Angelus Way. And here's one of the very few places where we might not have a physical separation from cars, because it's a very wide street with very slight traffic. So we can probably get by with just a stripe, and what's called a Class 2 bike lane on the southern side of Angelus Way. Then we get to Delray Park, one of the best parks in the whole area. There's always got people doing parking things in it, as everybody here knows. And we'll go through this little parking area and then scurry down to the trail that's along the creek there on the south side. Here's that trail, here's that little creek, that oil Delray. And so we'll just take this existing alignment here and pave it so that it doesn't have little potholes in it. You can have a skinny tyre on it. A little further along the road Delray, just getting past the place where the RVs and things park right there, looking at Frog Pond over here. We can come back to talk about Carlton, but this is the view from that spot up Carlton. And if we can, we want to get right underneath the mountain there. So there's no crossing of 218 with traffic anymore, we just go straight underneath it. And then this is the entrance to Frog Pond, obviously a pretty tight spot right now. It'd be great to improve that, and we'd really like to do that. This is the existing trail on Frog Pond. And this is another view of the same thing. That's about a 5 or 6 foot decomposed granite surface for the most part, with 2 or 3 foot of gutter on either side. So the sort of corridor there is comfortably 8 foot for most of that journey along the south side of Frog Pond. We're proposing to upgrade that to 8 foot of granite creek. So you saw an example of that granite creek. It's a little wider, it's paved, but it's paved with a natural looking material. And it's very much designed to sort of protect as much as possible that intimate, natural experience you have when you're traversing through Frog Pond. This is General Jimbo Boulevard, which I think everybody knows has basically no route for pedestrians and lots of challenges with traffic. So we want to go underneath it. This is General Jimbo from the other direction. We go underneath right there, pop out the other side there. The terrain favours this, so that the elevation of the road doesn't, as far as we can tell, doesn't need to change. But we're currently working on the details of that. Once you get to the other side there, it's gorgeous. In the lowlands, you've got this beautiful white woodland. It's some of the most beautiful white woodland I've been through, and I've been through a lot. And then up top, you've got these great views. And this is city property where there's already a bench just sitting there. Now, four-tag doesn't go up the top here, but getting that tunnel underneath General Jim Moore enables access to this whole chunk of regional park that we can't really get to very comfortably right now. And four-tag stays down more in this amount here, it comes across the top of these lakes here. And then when you get up to the monument, you've got ocean views at sunset, just a few minutes from your backyard or front door. It's beautiful up there. It's a really uplifting experience just to sit up the top there and watch the sun go down. And know, hey, I'm still in the city. I'm still in my city. I'm not on some vacation or anything. It's great. A little bit of history. Some of these ideas we didn't realise this at the time, but they go way back. So the Fort Ord Reuse Plan is a 22-year-old document. There is a system of paved local and regional bikeways in that document. About a mile of them are within the Delray Oaks lands. Back in 1998, when Fora was expanding, well, basically opening General Jim Moore, which at the time was North-South Road, opening the South Gate, the Park District said, hey, we have a trail that goes across there. It's fine now because there's basically no traffic, but when there's traffic there, we're going to have problems crossing that road, which we all know about now. Could you please build a tunnel under General Jim Moore connecting the two halves of Frog Pond together? That was a letter the Park District wrote before at the time. It didn't happen then, but it can happen now. And the desire to have it, the idea that that's the way to really make that pipeline function has been there for 20 years. There's an agreement between the city and other parties that's consistent with that. In particular, the agreement designates certain land use restrictions on the eastern edge of the eastern part of the floodplain, such as south of South Boundary Road. Basically saying we have a trailhead on that eastern edge. So again, kind of saying we want to trail through these parcels and trailhead as well. So these are kind of important points of reference for us to sort of say, this is something we've wanted for a very long time. It just takes, a big idea or a momentum to finally get it to happen. This is the first time we've presented to council to say, hey, this is the whole forte, and then get some feedback and comments. But there's been quite a few moments where staff and electeds have played a very crucial role. So we had just counted up. We had 9 meetings with staff and individual elected officials. The most crucial of all, of course, is the DRO as a voting member of the Transportation Agency. Mayor Edelman is usually the representative there and has been crucial in getting Forte into Measure X and getting Measure X passed. I cannot overstate the importance of some of the comments that you made in helping make things kudos. So I think it's a total of 6 different approvals that the TAMSI board has given to Forte with representation to the LRX. Similarly with the Florida Release Authority, the Florida Release Authority approved a thing called the Draft Trails Concept. That's basically Forte with a different name. And so that kind of basically gives Florida's blessing on the whole thing. This council actually did approve a Forte-related item late last year in designating TAMSI as the lead agency. So that was an action we took. And a relevant one here, it's not this council, but was in this room, was the, actually it wasn't this room, but it's the organisation that used to once be in this room, the Park District passed a resolution last year, essentially reaffirming their support for the concept of a paved trail going through both parts of the floodplain and the General Timber Boulevard. That's something that they wanted 20 years ago, and they kind of re-upped on that concept just recently, which of course is important, because we don't want to sit here and design this giant thing and have the owner of that park say, no, you can't do that. So this is not an action item, it's just a foundation building exercise, a feedback soliciting exercise, and so that's what we have for now.
Dr. Watson, thank you very much for an outstanding presentation. This is very exciting. I mean, really, it's your vision, you and Scott's vision. You pulled it all together from working you two that we wouldn't even have any cons with this. And I really appreciate all the work you've done. I mean, you fought a bloody fight to get this thing going. I'm proud to be able to work with you on doing that. Okay, questions, comments by members of our council? Yes.
What do you envision for these, some sort of a culvert to get underneath the roads? How's that going to work? Will they be lighted?
Good question. That's a key issue to figure out. You can do undercrossings in ways that present risk to the community, and you can mitigate those by making them as open as possible, as lit as possible, with no blind spots where either there's a perceived or a real risk that you come around the corner and there's something unexpected around that corner. And that's something we're exploring right now. Of great benefit to that is TAMSI has just hired Rich Deal out of the city of Monterey to work with TAMSI, and he's got a lot of experience in these kinds of things. And so we're spending a fair amount of time in the field with Rich looking specifically at those sites, going at how good an undercrossing can we do here? Can we have something where, in the case of Jim Moore, what it really feels like is a continuous landscape that you're just moving through, and there happens to be a bridge up there over which cars are going, but you don't ever really notice it. That's the ideal. If the geotechnical side of that works out, if the structural side in terms of having a thin enough bridge deck works out, and if the financial side works out, great. We're just going to fight as hard as we can to make those things work out and push back against what might be the shortcut to build like a 10-foot concrete box culvert that's very dark inside and it doesn't, you can't really see through it very well. So there's a continuum of options there, and we're working really hard to make it an open thing with a bridge deck on top and not so much a culvert. I have a group of 3.5 students right now who are doing their semester project on the detailed topographic survey of the whole Jim Moore area, so that we can really understand the terrain constraints and opportunities to see how much room we've got, how big that bridge span would need to be. Then we can go to the engineers and see how thick that bridge deck would need to be, and they can actually get a cost estimate on it. about $1 million for that undercrossing. And, I think the more expensive options will be a little more than that, the cheapest options will be substantially less than that.
And what's sort of the timeframes, when do things begin?
Good question, yeah. So we have, right now, there's an RFP out for consultants to do the environmental review and 35% preliminary engineering design. Their bids are due in 2 weeks. We're expecting to decide on who they are in about June or July. And I think we're looking at about a 12 to 18 month time frame for the environmental review and preliminary engineering design. And that includes the public comment, discovery periods and all that. So that puts us at about 2 years from now, shovel ready. Hopefully a little less than 2, but we'll be around there. Things take a little while.
Yeah, you gotta get it done so that Mayor Eland can enjoy it before it gets too old.
Well, it's successful. It's successful. My mother said 19 years
Well,
ago.
you did say it was wheelchair accessible.
My mother turns 90 today, actually. And when I think of that end of the accessibility scale, hopefully you're at least 50 years from that. I help her along this little trail at my home in Australia. And I'm thinking of her when I'm thinking about the accessible gradients. It's like, oh, I've got to take my mum on this trail, and she's kind of slow. So, if you make it past 90, we might not be able to.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments from members of the council?
I have.
Oh, I'm sorry, so, yeah.
I found it extremely interesting, the presentation, because the mayor has been talking about Forte a lot, and so, but this made it more real, seeing the presentation and what you're doing and what it's going to look like going through the beautiful natural areas. Thank you so much.
Other questions, comments?
I want to comment, it's very real and very beautiful, and it's exciting, and I think it goes with we just made a new vision statement, and it goes with that vision statement of interconnecting everything. And I do have one question. Hopefully you're starting to think about the rules on that, or do bikes yield to, pedestrians? You just see a lot of children on there. I know a lot of people walk through the frog pond with their children running, loose and looking at all the flora. Hopefully, we'll be run over by the speed bicyclists.
Yeah, we think about that a lot, and we, like everybody, we've all used travel in different modes and seen those moments where things could work a little better or things could be designed better to make it work better. And we want as much as possible in coming up with, ideally, design-based ways of making uses compatible with each other. But just by the way it's shaped and sized, things work, and not having too many rules, so to speak. Just like in the way, if you want to slow traffic down, you can make the road narrow and put bends in it, or you can put up a sign saying slow down. If you can do it with the geometry, that's generally the best solution, including transportation engineers. So the same thing applies to recreation trails. In the criteria that we use to select the consultants, 60 points, I think it is, a lot of the points basically are to do with experience designing trails like this. So, and we've heard that there's a pretty large list of consultants who are looking to bid on this. So we're very likely to get a super experienced consultant who is all about designing trails to minimize conflicts between users and things like that. And that's probably the best place for it.
In Monterey, I walk that Monterey trail quite a bit too, and the bicyclists feel like they really own that trail. And so it'd be nice if you're doing this, you think about that, because they own it to the point that.
Yeah. I think and the design changes depending on the density of use. The really frequently used areas, we need a little bit more room and potentially physical separations. Like we actually just got the opportunity to design a trail on 9th Street in Marina, just east of 2nd Avenue. So if you're driving on 2nd north towards REI with the cinema on your left there, and the roller rink right there on your left, just off the roller rink, there's a brand new little baby greenway in which we designed a bike, we call it a fast, slow, and dirt corridor. So the fast one is asphalt concrete, Next to that, there's a regular Portland concrete for slower travel, and then a dirt one for jogging and equestrians and things like that. And that was an attempt to sort of take a potentially very high use area and think how, and to learn from the coastal trail out there at Lovers Point, where you've got, you're constantly doing it, people barreling into each other, and kind of use the design to say, hey, if you're going a little faster, you probably want to be here. And it's actually not that easy to take a shortcut on the slow side. And if you're going a little slower than you go here, you can probably feel pretty comfortable because the fast people are over there. We don't know if it'll work yet, we're just talking. But once the people start really moving into the dunes in a big way, you go out there and check it out, watch how they use them, and we'll learn from it. We've got to kind of learn a bit from that exercise.
Well, thank you for all the effort you've done. I know you got paid zero, right?
Yep, hopefully it stays that way.
Thank you very much, I really appreciate it.
So just to echo the excitement and the thanks, and just to share, I serve on other transportation boards, and the excitement is not just Delray Oaks, I mean, it's peninsula-wide. And I think a lot of people really just see huge potential just to connect the whole peninsula, but in a truly sustainable way. And I think, Dr. Watson and Dr. Waltz have done this in their volunteer time. It's amazing that it's gotten to this point. I think we're really fortunate to be able to see this. And just to underscore, I think as people are excited about this, we talk a lot about the recreation aspect of it, but think about the connectivity this is going to create in the future to schools. Safe way for kids families to ride their bikes to school. Be able to connect to business. People won't need to necessarily drive their car to Ryan Ranch or access the university. So I think the potential for this is so much bigger, and I think we're very fortunate, the city of Delray Oaks, that not only are we going to be connected to it directly, but potentially have a loop around Delray Oaks, giving our community the access to all these different points. Just one thing I wanted to share is as we look at a lot of things from a transportation perspective to talk about the way in which greenways and things like Fortag fit into broader communities. I just want to share this study that was presented to the Department of Transportation regarding this type of access coming into your community. Improving the ability of communities to travel safely and conveniently via walking or wheeling is essential to achieving a sustainable, equitable transportation system that can provide options in how people access jobs, schools, healthcare services, faith entities, social gatherings, and other destinations. Numerous studies have shown that enhancing the ability of populations to travel via non-motorized modes can potentially lead to improved outcomes in public health, safety, and economic development, promote resource efficiency, strengthen inclusive neighborhood relations, and bolster public transportation services. These benefits are not limited to underserved and disadvantaged populations, but have been shown to have positive impacts company-wide. So you can see communities and even transportation organizations are thinking about how much this can potentially impact communities. And again, I just want to underscore how fortunate we are to have this coming through Delray Oaks.
For those of you. Okay, let's go to the public. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Come forward.
Again, I think it's a fabulous idea. I'm just curious, you said ideally it would start in 2 years. Would that be here, Marina? Or, I know it's a big expanse. You can't do it all at once. So I'm just curious, tentative timeline?
That is the question that everybody asks.
Yeah.
Where is the first bit going to be built? We don't know. What we do know is we're going to be transparent about it. We're going to start by listing a set of criteria that we'll use to decide what gets built first, and second and third, and so forth. Agree on those criteria, and once we've done that, figure out, given the criteria, what makes the most sense to build first. And the criteria are quite diverse. There's part of it is the city ready, or we need to wait for a general plan update or something like that. Another part of it is it close to a community now, so that immediately it's going to get a lot of use. If we build the first segment way up in the boonies, there's no way to get to that segment, there's no whole point in that. Other criteria would be, is it something we can probably fund soon with additional money we've not yet brought to the table that we might not want to spend our own money on now? which is a tricky one, you know, like put off a segment, because we could probably get external money for it, might be a really tough decision we'll have to make at some point. So there's about 9 or 10 of those criteria that we think of. And I actually try to avoid too hard thinking about applying criteria until we've really decided what they are. And we're not too much of a hurry to do that. We know the big goal right now is to get the environmental review accomplished and approved. And we're really hoping that that's going to be an EIR, I think a specific EIR or project EIR for the entire thing, so the entire system and any alternative that we could possibly think of in the future is environmentally approved now, so that every bit of it, should we decide to build it at any time, is shown ready at that point. The other way to do it is a thing called a program EIR that you follow up with a bunch of subsequent EIRs. That takes more time, costs more money, and is more uncertain. But we've got the money now, so we can do the full project EIR. And that's kind of the focus now, is getting through that step, getting the shovel road ready. Then it's nothing we don't really, who gets the first segment.
Build on what Dr. Watson was saying, the Measure X over 30 years gives $600 million, but that's just the base. Since we passed Measure X, we're now a quote self-help county eligible for matching funds. He's already gotten $1 million on his $20 million. We're looking at over the life of 30 years, the average self-help county gets a ratio of 3 to 1. So that means over 30 years, we're not getting $600 million, we'll probably get $1.6 billion coming into this because we passed Measure X. And TAMC right now is working on trying to get additional money for FORTAG. FORTAG will be built, probably using matching funds because we did pass Measure X. Thanks for voting for Measure X. Dave, you had a question?
You answered my question.
Okay. So, I mean, it's huge. This is going to happen. Everybody's behind it. Even hospitality and ag are behind it too. So, any other questions or comments from the audience? Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Jody Aberswan from Carlton, and you just said you were going to explain how it goes down Carlton a little bit, and I didn't.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Just wanted to explain.
Yeah, so obviously it's a fairly recent idea. When we didn't look at this 3 or 4 years ago because it seemed, Carlton itself, let's I'll work my way towards it. The city has been thinking about Carlton, doing things with Carlton, working with Carlton recently, right? And so for us, it's something we're really looking at as an opportunity, and which we couldn't do before. We come along 3 years ago and say, hey, let's put a bridge over there and go up Carlton. It was something just a little bit bolder than we would have thought. So what we're thinking is, without Carlton as a bridge, we have to cross Highway 218 right here. And we were thinking of a signalised intersection. You'll signal, you press the button, and walk across. And that's not too bad, but it could be better. And so there's an opportunity. There's certainly the real estate. Now that the city's got 300 acres up there north of South Boundary Road, things like this can move out of the way and go up to South Boundary. So you've got all this here that can be rethought. There's trailhead parking or something like that. And the trail itself going right underneath Highway 218 right there. That's Carlton heading up there. City Hall is just up here. And we go right underneath. There's some utility constraints, like you can see right there. There's a sewer main on the other side. There's a major PG&E pressure reducing station with those big metal plates out on the road. So there's some real serious constraints there we've got to figure out. And having enough room to make it safe and well lit is another thing we've got to figure out. But it looks like there's the opportunity to go right underneath there. Once you do that, the next challenge is an accessible gradient up Carlton. So we've mapped out the whole 30 miles in 30-foot segments to what the slope is. Is it 2%, or 4%, or 5%, or 12%? And the state mark standards tell us what the slope has to be. And we've done that for Carlton. And if you try to ride your wheelchair or your trike or anything from there up Carlton, it's too steep if you do it in a straight line. But if you put enough bends in, or a crucial bend at a crucial spot, you can do it. You can, if you're thinking of it, there's a kid going down Carlton on their bike, and you don't want to just go straight into the thing at the bottom there, you've got the vehicles on your right, you go again, you've got houses on your left there, and right at the bottom it opens out to a wide concrete expanse. You close that up substantially, have the vehicles mostly on the right side, and bend the cyclist or the person on wheels to the right, and then left down to the underpass and underneath it. We've done the math. You put just enough bend in there, you get enough gentleness and gradient that the kid is safe doing that. You're not going to smash into the concrete at the bottom. But that takes some really careful and willful planning on the part of the city. So we want to do this with the 18 and Carlton intersection. And it's, I'm fully aware that it's a big, complicated thing that the city's figuring out right now. So if the city moves forward on that, there definitely is an opportunity to have safe, accessible, wheeled connectivity from this trunk all the way up Carlton and onto Mescal and up you go. So we're working with the city, we're working with Kimberly Horn, who's also part of that. We're working with Dempsey on engineering, we're working with PG&E on the utility side of things, working with Cal-Am on the utility side of things, to try to figure out just exactly what does it take to make that
And
work.
the trail goes connects to yes.
Yeah, so it would be a spur of foot tag. And where we like our ability to kind of push everything stops and the city has to pick it up is a bit undetermined. But I will say that in the original $40 million package, Marina was ready to have a spur designated on California, so we put that in the package and that's in the $40 million. Seaside was ready to have two or three spurs coming out of Seaside East. We put that in the package and that's in the package. We haven't got that far with Delray yet, but that spur on Carlton is parallel with the other cities. So we've been starting to represent that idea that this is Delray Oak's spur, not just a trunk, but it's a spur that is needed to get to the trunk. Should the city decide that that's what it wants.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions by members of the public? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Is the spur made of the same material as the main 30-mile four-tire path, the Granite Creek? Was it made of all the same material?
So a clarification, the Granite Creek we would only use where there's a strong desire to maintain that natural feel. A perfect example is the frog pond, which is already a really well understood, intimate natural experience. It costs more than asphalt concrete, so where we can use asphalt concrete, people don't mind that, then we're going to use that. And that's probably 29.5 miles. Well, we're building 7.5 miles already too, so we're building about 24 miles and about 0.5 of it is Granite Creek. So I guess the short answer to that question is the spurs would be probably asphalt concrete.
And the wooded areas were natural as the Granite Creek.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions by members of the public?
I have
Yes,
one question about the area between the Fort Ord, rather between Delray Oaks and Marina in the Fort Ord area. There are quite a lot of native animals, such as mountain lions and things of that particular type that I've encountered myself when biking. Do you have any plans to relocate or create some form of well-lit path in order to prevent that? Yes, I agree that definitely this can be a great way to transport between Marina and Delray Oaks. It's going to bring a lot of people, but it's also going to be a transport section at night as well. People coming from class from CSUMB back to Monterey, back to Delray Oaks. So when they're coming back or going back to Marina, is there anything that has been planned to avoid that?
Good question. So we plan to light segments, and we don't know which ones yet, but those are the kinds of ones we would want to light. There are other places where we don't think there's a need to light them. So I guess that's a really short answer. We're not trying to discourage wildlife, quite the opposite. But if there's, we don't want a place where there's an unlit path used by a CSE student that goes underneath oak trees who are traveling, the students are traveling by themselves. That could be a problem waiting to happen.
Any Any other questions about members of the public? Okay, seeing none, Dr. Watson, I really appreciate, and we all appreciate you coming here. That's an outstanding presentation. As we said earlier, you've given us pictorial evidence of what we're looking forward to in the future. Again, thank you for all the work you've done. Let's have a round of applause. Thank you, sir. Okay, next we have the city manager's report. Neil, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, the highlight of last week for staff was the strategic planning retreat that Council held. Council's agreement on a draft vision statement was very exciting. We look forward to agendizing it for the April 24th meeting to take public input. CalAm dispatched a MPE engineering to repair a break on Rosita that has been causing erosion not only from the break but then from stormwater flows. We contacted CalAm, they were responsive and made a quality repair to Rosita. Chief Point and I attended the DRO Citizens Action Group meeting on Monday. It was the first meeting of the year, chaired by David Kimball. And it was an exciting meeting because the dates were set for various events that have been discussed throughout the year. The city staff shared the dates for the city's open house, which will be June 16th. And we discussed potential projects where we can collaborate and hopefully get some Eagle Scouts to do some more work in our city. And I want to join the council in thanking David for his leadership there. Staff met with Seaside Pony League and a softball league, women's softball league, last week to discuss field improvements and use. Weather permitting, Seaside Pony is preparing the outfield for seed and fertilizer, which will be donated by Delray Garden Center. The softball league will help with volunteer support and funding in exchange for practice time on the field, which they will coordinate with Seaside Pony. The city is executing another round of squirrel abatement in the park. Later this spring, Seaside Pony hopes to build a scoreboard, flagpole, and snack shack, as well as improve the backstop fence and dugouts. And all the costs for these improvements are going to be borne by the leagues and their fundraising. We finalized our slurry seal contract.
Easy for you to say.
With the following dates. Striping and crack sealing will occur from June 4th to June 8th. The actual slurry seal, which is the paving of the roadways, will be June 11th through the 13th. And restriping will occur June 18th to the 20th. Of course, all weather dependent, and we'll notice the public and put it on social media as well as we close in on those dates. The city placed a request for proposals for a Delray Oaks CCA in the Monterey County Weekly last Thursday. The city will be accepting proposals through April 12th and then bring those to council as soon as ready. We held a coffee with the city manager Tuesday, March 6th. 5 residents participated, including 3 from the Oaks condominiums. It was a 2-hour discussion focused mainly on the potential development on the 17-acre parcel, but also touched on other topics. I enjoyed it very much and appreciate the public coming to those. Mayor Edelin and I attended Nick Southern's Eagle Scout Court of Honor, which he earned on his project here in Delray Oaks, putting our outboxes up and beautifying our park. It was a real treat to be part of his ceremony where he became an Eagle Scout. And I have to say, the guest of honor, guest speaker there was none other than our mayor. And he was wearing an Eagle Scout pin, only his was sterling silver. So that was pretty neat. A quick update on major projects. Highway 18 corridor study is progressing with TAMSI. There are 2 sessions of bus walking tours scheduled for April 7th for the public to discuss various concerns with staff. The first one will be at 9 a.m. and the second at 12:30 p.m. TAMSI has finalized a flyer that the city will mail out to all of our residents so that you can see exact times and places for meeting. If you're interested in that, I hope that our public takes full advantage of the ability to input on how we can make 218 safer for bicycles, pedestrians, and vehicle traffic. In terms of the 17-acre parcel, the city received 2 development proposals and held a special council meeting on March 13th to hear presentations from developers and receive public comment. When asked by the city staff recently, the Regional Parks District has expressed interest in acquiring all or some of the 17-acre parcel, though no formal proposal has been submitted. City Council will meet in a closed session later on this evening and provide confidential negotiating guidance to city staff on the way forward. Traffic calming, I'll hold that until traffic calming. Street resurfacing, we talked about that. Short-term rentals, please put it on your calendar, April 5th, Thursday evening, 6 p.m. here at the City Hall. We're going to hold a community workshop to begin the dialogue about the way ahead with short-term rentals in Del Rey Oaks. It's obviously a very sensitive topic, but it's a very important topic, and so we're going to begin the dialogue on April 5th. And lastly, that's all I have.
Thank you, excellent report, much appreciated. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I attended the Monterey Regional Waste Management, I should say, I chaired the monthly finance committee meeting at the district offices on March 7th. The purpose of those meetings is to review the financials of the waste management district, making sure that they're sticking to their budget and delivering the services that the waste management district is responsible for. We also reviewed contracts that are under proposal and discussed the upcoming labor negotiations. I also participated in the March 23rd board meeting, and in which some of those items that we reviewed in the Finance Committee, of course, get voted on by the full board. Today we had the district had a strategic planning session today out at the Shoreline Conference Center, in which we looked at some long-range planning on that the staff has put together. There are a number of legislative actions that are going to require, mandate, and of course there are unfunded mandates translated into we're all going to pay for them. But we'll be making some changes there. They're going to, there's a requirement coming down that all of the green waste that you put into your baskets now, or your canisters, that all will have to be processed in enclosed spaces. So in order to do that on this peninsula for our communities around here, I think the size of the building is somewhere around 5,000 square feet that will have to be enclosed in order to process the green waste material. And if we want to do it on a larger scale, because there really isn't any place around the Monterey Peninsula, Santa Cruz area, where something of that size could be built, so we may do it on a more regional basis. We'll have to look at it. This will require a building much larger than that. So some real challenges ahead to figure out there, but we've got a great staff out there, and they're working hard on coming up with the right solution. Monterey One Water, the old Water Pollution Control Agency. I chaired the Budget and Personnel Committee meeting, and again, we review the finances. We take a look at the contracts that are in process for work to be done. There's a large capital improvement project, program that we have going there. And of course, we have the Pure Water Monterey project, which is making excellent progress. Then I participated in the monthly board meeting, which was last night, held down at the Portola Plaza Hotel, so we could walk down the street to Montrio's, where the Monterey One Water was hosting a reception in conjunction with the Water Reuse California Annual Conference that's going on here in Monterey. I had the opportunity to speak briefly with the Vice Chair of the Water Resources Board, the State Water Resources Board, and he's just overflowing with compliments about the Pure Water Monterey project, first of its kind, where it required so much coordination with other agencies and entities. And they're very excited about, we're excited about it, and it's making great progress. Again, with the help of the Water Management District, which is a big important thing. And we've received, which a lot of that money that the Water Management District helped pay for in the startup program is now being reimbursed by the state revolving fund. So we have a loan from the state revolving fund. That loan will be paid back out of the water purchase agreement that we do have with the California American Water Company. They're going to buy the water, we produce the water, inject it into the Seaside Aquifer. They'll draw the water out and pay for it as they draw it out. And then you and I pay for it when we use it. Also with the city, along with the city manager, met with the general manager and staff of the Monterey One Water to look at options for how we put a sewer line in along General Jim Warren Road to service the RV park out there. And the city managers has been continuing to explore those options that we discussed with them. They were very helpful, came up with some good suggestions. I participated in an ad hoc committee meeting with the members of the airport district on March 8th. You were there too, or is that one that you missed? Yeah, she was there? Okay, Dino says you were there. Anyway, the airport, as you all know, is doing a environmental impact study and has its master plan it's working on. We want to understand what it is that they're doing up there that may, how it may impact on the city of Delray Oaks. So that's the purpose of those meetings. Participate in a special city council meeting to hear presentations on proposals for possible development of the 17-acre. Not many of you were here for that. And one of you presented at it. Attended and spoke at the March 20th Homeowners Association meeting. Attended that along with the city manager at the Oaks. And we mostly talked about the 17 acres. And participated in the city's strategic planning update this past week on March 21st. I walked portions of the 17-acre parcel to gain a better understanding of the land, and I did pick up a tick. Which I got rid of. The time limit. And I participated in the meeting with the city manager and 2 consultants to review 2 proposals submitted for possible development of 17 acres. And that will be discussed in this closed session. Final thing, I did represent the city at the Monterey County Business Council Anniversary Gala and Economic Vitality Awards, which was this past Saturday. We did not have any of our businesses recognized. Oh, excuse me, I take that back. J. Rollins was recognized. Yes, J. Rollins and Associates was recognized for the work that they do with the Department of Defense. And that's it. Yeah, and I have to correct something too. I told somebody recently that I spend about 4 hours a week doing city council stuff. There's no way I got this done in 4 hours.
No, that's a lot. Each council member, we represent on different agencies, boards, and so forth, and it takes a long time. I mean, you're talking almost a full-time job in many cases. So again, just thank you, Councilmember Liddell.
Thank you. As alternate, I attended the MST board meeting where we received and adopted a drafted conflict of interest code. And there was an excellent presentation by the MST Mobility Service. Much of what we saw in this presentation across the door is projected on the screen here. The one thing he didn't mention was the training of management of bus travel. He kind of hit on a tab, but they trained 515 people to know how to assist people who are in wheelchairs, etc., and how to board the bus. And the survey results showed 95% satisfaction in the MST service, and then the taxi satisfaction was at 90.7%. 4 employees were given recognition and special presentations for Fernando Manasalala, whatever, as Employee of the Month. He has worked for MST for 31 years. And Tim Manelli, 30 years of service. Kelly Halcon, the Management Excellence Award. And then there was a Mobility Update Award, and the person was not there, and so it will be presented at a later date. I attended the Seaside Sanitation, and it was reported that a meeting was held between Seaside Sanitation and Marina Coast Water. Excuse me. It was stated that the meeting was productive and there is a possibility agreement between the two organizations, which would be a great thing. And preliminary design is being done to accommodate the RV park in Delray Oaks. I attended the Community Human Services meeting, and it was an excellent and interesting presentation on their program, Pathways to Safety. This program is a community response to support families and keeping children safe. Keeping children in the home and out of the welfare system is of great concern. A family resource specialist can find resources and services, including parenting, education, support groups, counseling, activities for children, teen services, child care, tutoring, ESL classes, substance abuse treatment, public benefits, food, and housing assistance. There are 3 paths in this program, and the presentation was on path 1 only. I have brochures here if anybody's interested in seeing, and it's really a wonderful program. And we approved the revised organizational structure as well as specifications for various staff positions. And I also attended the strategic planning at the city, the workshop. It was very successful. Much was accomplished, which enables the city to go forward. And we developed a great draft vision statement for Delray Oaks. And it is, Delray Oaks will be a unified city with interconnected, welcoming, and thriving neighborhoods, parks, and a vibrant downtown. Let's work together on that, the residents of the city, and we'll get this accomplished. The Delray Oaks Citizens Action Group, which David Kimball spoke tonight, the existing officers were unanimously re-elected. Thank goodness. And David, again, is president, and Terry Neese, treasurer, Claudia Campbell, secretary, and Barbara Kimball as correspondence secretary. And the dates have been established for our 4 events for 2018. The ice cream social will be held on May 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. The garage sale July 28th, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The picnic will be on September 22nd from 12 noon to 3 p.m. And Santa's workshop will be December 9th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Hope to see you all at these events, and I hope to perhaps see some of you volunteering at one of these events. Thank you.
Beth, thank you. Great report. Thank you, report.
Okay, so I thank you for attending the main meeting when I said transit. I was unable to make that, but I did have to go earlier, and I chaired the Planning and Operations Committee, in which we were talking about, you heard Carl saying that MV operates all those full training buses. We're talking about possibly not doing that and having MST train all the drivers and have that all be part of MST. Something that we've toyed with for many years, but it looks like it might happen. The Rider's Guide is about to be published. There's 21 minor changes to the Rider's Guide. Line 41 is adding service every 15 minutes, which is in Salinas during the daytime. And the Memorial Day trolley is starting up, so you get to catch your free ride in Monterey, all over with that trolley, free trolley. And the Big Sur line starts up again. And CSUMB stops because the school's out. There's another line that goes through there, but the main one ceases during the summertime. Yeah, he stole my thunder here. We got new buses that were just rolled out, and 4 of them rolled out, and we got 23 more on the way. And the new ones, I don't think he's touched on this, but the new ones have much brighter LEDs on the front. So when you see the bus, you'll notice what the new ones are because they'll be much brighter. And again, that was all paid for, purchased with a combination of federal grant grants and state and local funds. I did attend the all-day strategic meeting. It was very exciting. It's very nice to work together with this council. I think it's good that we all come together and all of us have all of you in mind. We all care about you. Everyone, you've got every different perspective with these strategic meetings, and it's just nice that we came up with a vision that is exciting and happy and community-oriented, and I think we all work well together. Yes, I did attend the meeting. Sorry, I was not listening to you, and I didn't have my glasses. I couldn't see who you were talking to. Yes, I've been on that committee since way back when Joe Russell was the mayor, so I've been on that liaison committee for many years, and I showed up to that. So I think that's it. I'm excited about all the Del Rio Citizens Action meetings. The activities coming up. It's a great time to interconnect with the residents and make new friends and see all the old ones.
There's some great work. Councilmember Murphy.
So attended the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments. 2 items to report. First, the draft Metropolitan Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy was released for public review in December, and public comments closed in February. 4 open houses and 5 public hearings were held. Staff is currently compiling all the comments that came from the workshops and preparing replies. And both all the questions as well as the replies will be reported out in the next AMBAG board meeting. AMBAG was also awarded $360,000 in SB1 adaptation planning grant by Caltrans to conduct this Central Coast Highway 1 climate resiliency study. AMBAG also sent a letter in support of AB 2006, the Agricultural Worker Clean Transportation Investment Act. Here's a brief statement from the letter. California's agricultural workers are the backbone of the agricultural economy, and yet most come from extremely impoverished backgrounds. They often lack clean, safe, reliable transportation options that can transport them to the state's remote agricultural sites. As a result, many resort to driving antiquated, high-polluting, and unregistered vehicles because it's the only means to get to work. The Agricultural Worker Van Pool Program provides agricultural employees with a safe and affordable form of transportation. Also, van pooling provides flexibility and increases employment opportunities. Update from the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. The City of Monterey, who's a member of the Economic Partnership, released their transportation demand model. What's really interesting about this is normally when cities release things, they kind of look like this. They're just big documents full of text. What the City of Monterey has done is you'll see that there's animated video, graphics, really explaining all the complexity of transportation in the region. And what they actually state on their site is they want to lead by example. They're trying to make this in a very consumable way for other cities to use, as well as citizens to understand transportation in the area. And attended the Northern Salinas Valley Mosquito Abatement District board meeting. Main update is that the dead bird hotline will be effective April 15th. And to note, there have been 3 dead birds reported in the coverage area, 1 in San Mateo, 2 in Santa Clara, but no human cases and no risk factors. That's my report.
You can see our council's pretty busy, to say the least. A lot of the information that I had on here, I won't be redundant on that. A couple things. This last month was another busy one. On February 28th, attended the 3-hour transportation agency for Monterey County meeting in Salinas. The meeting, we had a hearing for unmet transportation needs in the county. If there's any type of needs in the county brought up at this meeting, we went through that. We also approved Measure X expenditures for the Safe Routes to Schools program. Again, Measure X is providing money so that our little ones can get to school and not be run over by cars. Very successful program. That afternoon, I attended a Florida Use Authority Executive Committee meeting. We reviewed the Board of Directors work program. It's going to be a very busy year, 2 years. In 2 years, 4 goes away. What happens after that, whether there's a joint college authority or just goes away, we don't know yet. We're working on that. I'm on the transition task force. I'll keep you updated. On March 1st, I participated in the Reading Across America program. Went over to the New Republic Elementary School in Salinas and read to the children there. It's a second year growing participate. It's really inspirational. You have a lot of young kids. Beth White does this all the time. I took her lead, watched her do it, and said, darn it, she can do it, I can do it too. So Beth, you're my leader in that regard. Very, very satisfying. The kids really appreciate some of us showing up there and reading to them. Actually, it's very similar because reading to children in the elementary school level is like dealing with the California State Legislature. Same level area. March 2nd, I attended the Monterey County Mayor's Association luncheon in San City. One topic that's raising its head that I'm going to fight. I'll give it to council later on this. They're looking at perhaps next month trying to come up with a program where there will be facilities for vagrants in each Monterey County city. We would rotate these large numbers of vagrants going from our residential area to the next residential area to the next area. There's got to be a better way of helping people who want to help themselves rather than setting up facilities for people who live right amongst our midst that may or may not be going to try to help themselves. So next month we'll go a little more in detail. But right now, the idea of putting the homeless camp right in the middle of our city, it won't start, it won't be there. I was reappointed to serve on the Florida Transition Task Force. We will study the remaining habitat, transportation, emissions removal, and other remaining obligations, and recommend to the board what kind of organization, if any, should follow forward. It's that sets in 2020. Stay tuned on that. Whatever decisions made will be brought back to this council for our ratification, for our discussion, our debate, for public input. So again, we're doing the foundation work right now to see what alternatives are available. It'll be brought to us for discussion and see what happens there. Okay, we held our first meeting on March 5th. Dissolved 4, not dissolved 4, don't need to go into that, any more than that. On Wednesday, March 7th, attended the Seaside Basin Water Master meeting, followed by a special Board of Directors meeting. The Water Master meeting reviewed our annual submission to the overseeing judge who was set up. The Seaside Basin Water Master was set up because we have saltwater intrusion into the Peralta Basin. Legally, that's from Highway 218 north through Seaside. There has been saltwater intrusion. The judge has set up this board, which Del Reyes is a member, and we monitor the salinity levels in various test wells around there to see if there's any further saltwater intrusion. We're also pumping fresh water into the basin to ensure that saltwater intrusion is not only stopped but pushed back out. The good news is there's no indication of saltwater intrusion in the Peralta Basin right now. The questionable news is there's a little bit elevated sodium levels in 2 of the wells. That may or may not indicate there's work to be done. Stay tuned on that. But I tend to be optimistic, but we have to be careful, and the judge will oversee what we're doing on that. So, good organization. Okay, in a special board meeting, we voted down a proposal by the City of Marina, usual suspects, to subordinate Ford's claim to Marina's rental income to paying off 2 new proposed bonds Marina's applying for. Marina owes Ford money. The money they give to Ford goes in part to the capital improvement program. We have 2 capital improvement projects. The upgrade of South Boundary Road, the extension of Jimward Boulevard from where it stops at 4 lanes all the way down to 218. We need the money from Ford to finish these 2 projects within the next 2 years. Marina is trying to say, well, you know, we're really trustworthy. All that money that we're promised to pay you, let's use that to use as a collateral for 2 major bonds we're taking out. If everything goes well in Marina, yeah, it might work out. If it doesn't go well in Marina, we lose our funds, we lose our project. So I fought that and won on the board motion of 8-3. The board passed support 100% on that. So our funds are still intact for 2 major projects. On Thursday, March 8th, I attended the Monterey Peninsula Water Authority meeting. I'm the treasurer. Recently, the Monterey Herald said that the Water Authority has agreed to delay any type of movement forward with the desalinization plant for an entire year. That's not accurate. They took information out of context. We're going to continue to move forward. Right now, we're in a loggerheads with Marina Coast Water District, City of Marina. They want to kill the projects. It really comes down to when we're trying to replace the water that we're taking 60% from the Carmel River, it'll be cut off here in a short period of time by a cease and desist order unless we can come up with replacement water, okay? We're trying to get replacement water for the last couple of years. So we said we want a desalinization plant. State Water Resources Control Board came and said, fine, you're going to try and do a slant well first. We're saying, well, it's unproven, it's going to cost more, we want to do open water intake. They said, sorry, you're going to try and do a slant well first. We saluted, okay. Cal-Am has worked, and they have a successful slant well right now. But the problem is, the slant well goes under the ocean floor, and it takes right now, it's 94% salt water and about 6% fresh water. So it does take some fresh water from the ground table, and we're using that for desalinization. Well, we're being sued now because, of course, we're taking 6% fresh water, and Marina Coast Water District and the City of Marina are rightfully saying, we don't want you taking any fresh water. Well, we agree, but we were told we had to do slant wells, we were told we had to do this. So we're basically darned if we do, we're darned if we don't. We're caught in a major lawsuit right now, and thank God for Dennis Allion and Monterey One Water pushing forward for reclaimed water, so they might be able to get our Peninsula 4 past the cease and desist order, so we're not going to have a draconian cutoff of all our water. So stay tuned. The lawyers are making, but not our lawyer, but the other lawyers. Anyhow, that's what's happening there. On Friday, March 9th, I attended the Forum Board of Directors meeting. We took votes on the east side, the goals and objectives for the East Side Parkway and to deny the City of Marina's attempt to subordinate the forest right. That was the second vote. Again, we won the second vote. The East Side Parkway is highly controversial. I understand the controversy. It's going right through Oak Woodlands. I don't want to destroy Oak Woodlands either. But what we're looking at, the goals and objectives set up basically, let's do a study. Let's take a look at the various routes through this area, including through CSUMB. Let's see what the EIR, Environmental Impact Report, says. Bring it back to the vote for informed, intelligent discussion, okay? Hopefully we can bring I think we should move the route further south. We don't interfere with the Oak Woodlands. There's another route down south. We still have a major artery going from the Marina, northern seaside area, all the way to Salinas, which would help take some of the traffic off of our proposed South Country Road. The traffic engineer, when he did the study, said that if the South Country Road, if the East Side Parkway was not built, then our level of service at the worst possible time on South Country Road would go from C, A being best, F being worst, and the rush hour would go from C to D. We don't want to have a D level of service right in Del Rio. We'd rather have it nice and flow well. So let's see what happens with EIR. Stay tuned. I'll bring back the various choices, and hopefully we'll try to mitigate the habitat problems with the right of our folks to get from Marina over to Salinas. Okay, that's that. Again, City Manager talked about Eagle Court of Honor, outstanding. I have sterling silver one because mine was minted before 1980, when the Scouts went from sterling silver to plank metal. So anyhow, I was just kidding around on that. The good news is, not only do we have that one Eagle Scout do great work for our city, we have 2 more waiting in the wings. So we have 2 more Eagle Scouts coming in here working with our city manager to determine other projects we can do. So again, thanks to you for all the work there. Again, the Citizens Action Group meeting, we beat that to death. I was there. Great opportunity. The study session for the 2 competing COP, it's already mentioned. That was a great opportunity. And dealing with this council, I've been around for a long time. This is the best city council we've ever had. They're dedicated. They have different ideas. There's no yes men or yes women here. We get in there, discuss things, and battle it out. And in my entire almost 2 decades of working for the city here, I've always found one exception in 20 years. I've been right sometimes, I've been wrong sometimes, but the city council, the decisions it's made over those 2 decades has always been right. It's a collective wisdom of all of us here, 3 out of the 5, that really determines the direction the city goes, and you've got some darn good city council members that are leading us in the right direction. It's an honor to be part of this council. I'm the Monterey County representative of the CalCog, California Association of Council of Governments. From March 14th and 16th, we have our annual leadership conference called Taking It to the Streets at Portola Plaza Hotel. Everybody, the mosquito bait that goes to Palm Springs, and everybody else I'm here at Portola Plaza Hotel. That's just a little black cloud hanging over my head. We had some great transportation.
Ours was Portola this year too.
Good. No, not good. I wish you well on that. The Measure X is really starting to help out, and there's something else that's going on, and we can't go in with the other. There's a major initiative to repeal SB1. SB1 passed 2 Novembers ago during the elections. It produces approximately, billions of of dollars to the state for transportation improvement, SB1, okay? It comes, Monterey County is getting many millions, we're getting money from SB1. There's a huge push. They've got the money right now, this organization, and they have the voting canvassers. There's no doubt in November there will be a repeal of SB1. Take a look at the literature. There's pros and cons. Does it cost money? Yes, it does cost money. Is there a lot of good coming out of SB1? Yes. Study the pros and cons. You'll hear more information about it. It will be on the ballot, and it's going to be really contentious. What else is, everything's contentious in California. So anyhow, we talked about that and what the implications are. The transportation projects we have planned right now in TAMC, a lot of the money is contingent on SB1 funds. If we don't get the SB1 funds, it'll back things up. So money makes things happen. You don't have the money, it won't happen quite as quickly. Again, strategic planning session, again, it was an honor to work with these folks here. I also attended the Pure Water Monterey reception. I got there on time, unlike Councilmember Allian, and I promised him I would save, I did save a couple of beers for him. I didn't drink it all. So, you know, the one thing about these social events, there was a lot of work conducted here. There were 2 members of the No Growth opposition that I'm battling with in all these meetings. After a couple of beers or a couple of glasses of wine, we're sitting there BSing, having a good time, breaking down the barriers of communication, found a lot of common ground. It's amazing what a couple of glasses of wine will do outside of, in fact, I came back and talked to our city manager and said, you know, each one of our city council meetings, we should have unlimited margaritas for not only council, but for everybody showing up here. We have the happiest city council meetings in the entire, and our party pooper city manager said no. So anyhow, I tried. I'm telling you, I tried.
Can we have a vote 3 out of 5?
Anyhow, and finally, just all of us here, every 2 years, we have to do a 2-hour ethics in public office online class. You go in there and you have to spend 2 hours. Now, this is California. If you're efficient and you complete the class in less than 2 hours, they say, congratulations, you need to do 4 more modules that take another 2 hours. So, and the clock in there is a little different because if it's not 2 hours, finishing 2 hours, it'll say you did it in 1 hour and 54 minutes. So you want to do it 2 hours and 20 minutes so they won't make you do the other. So anyhow, we all did that, we all passed. We all been educated for whatever it's worth. So that's the end of my report. So, yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I did have one thing I overlooked, and it was that at the Monterey One Water meeting last night, your husband, Bill Ragsdale Cronin, was recognized for his 38 years plus of service to the former Monterey Regional Water Pollution Control Agency. And he received a proclamation, a commendation for his many years of service. So that's a real kudos to the city of Del Rey Oaks to have 38 years of services. Really phenomenal.
Right. Yes, one more thing.
In addition to the spiders that keep coming home. The reason these orchids are here is because this is Dino Hicks' first anniversary of being with the city of Del Rey.
Several times. Close on that, but as usual, she's always ahead of us, you know, so anyhow, thank you for doing that. And again, we had a little party here beforehand, eating ice cream cakes and so forth, and Dino Pick is by far the best city manager the city's ever had. I think we all agree on that. We have more initiatives. What you see here is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many initiatives this man is working on. You know, it's been one of the best decisions we've made is bringing him on board. Thank you, Dino, for all your work. Okay, next we have the public comment period. Any member of the public can address the council on any item not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes. Please state basically where you're from, please.
Good evening, Mayor Gunnaman and council members and city manager, Mr. Pick, and attorney Lorca. My name is Alon Miles. I am a resident of Del Rey Oaks, but I'm also serving this year as the board president of the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. And I'd like to invite all of you, those in the public as well as on the board here, all the citizens of Del Rey Oaks, and anyone who may be watching this when it's broadcasted, to go online and complete a survey that the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District currently has out through May regarding our, what we call LCAP, which means Local Control Accountability Plan. It's part of the funds we get from the state to service our students who are from low socioeconomic families, from foster families, and who are also English learners. Now, this survey isn't for people who just have students in our school district attending our schools. It's also for anyone who's interested or who has a stake in what happens in the schools in our school district. And so we would like to have your input, your feedback, and I do have these cards outside on the table outside this meeting room. And we'd like you to go online to npusd.net/LCAP, LCAP. And again, the survey is about the services that we do provide for the three groups I just mentioned. We have goals and we have measurable outcomes. We'd love to have your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none, the public comment period is closed. We'll go into the consent agenda. Any member of the city council wishing to pull any items for question or discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Allen.
I just wanted to pull the claims report and
Which one?
the claims report.
Okay.
Now that's, what is it, first item?
Yes, B1.
As well as the current fiscal year financial report.
Okay, but that's B3. Okay, B3. Any member of the public wishing to pull any items for question or discussion? Okay, back with Councilor Allen, you want to cover yours right now?
Yeah, this is very brief and it's positive stuff. I wanted to first of all on the unclaimed bills. I'm sorry, I think I misstated. It's probably B2.
B2. Okay.
B2 is the unpaid bills. I wanted to highlight in there that we are now down to $34,000 that is owed to Goldfarb and Lippman, who were land use attorneys that helped us with and that's a significant reduction in that. Very positive move. And the second thing is that I want to highlight was if you look at our financials, the current fiscal year income to date versus last year, we're $700,000 more this year than last year, which is absolutely amazing. Terrific.
Outstanding.
Positive stuff.
Great comments. Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of 9B, which we put in the consent agenda to appoint the administrative hearing officer. Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, old business. We have traffic calming project. Our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works installed 4 radar speed signs on Portola just a couple of weeks ago. So far, the feedback is positive. We look forward to collecting traffic data from those signs and seeing how the speed is affected on Portola. Staff continues to coordinate with Seaside and other agencies to conduct the feasibility assessment and environmental review for the narrowing of Carlton. Staff placed changeable message signs on both sides of the intersection on March 26th in close coordination with the city of Seaside to notify the public about the temporary measure. Then we'll conduct the narrowing from April 2nd to the 27th, and we'll conduct traffic counts at the end of the second week of that measure. We've noticed the public on social media, and we'll continue to stay engaged to make sure that everybody knows what's happening.
Any questions, comments by members of the city council? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Those signs that we put up, how long are they going to be there? The ones advising about the closure?
We have them in place for the entire period up to April 27th. Should it become evident that they're no longer needed, we can pull them off the street.
Okay, and did we communicate with the citizens that when we put those out in front of their houses?
Not as well as we would like, but we adapted and tried to accommodate as best we could residents' concerns.
Other questions by members of council? Of the public, any questions or comments by members of the council? Or of the public, sorry.
Sir, can we make comments?
Yes, you may,
on
please,
that?
please.
Awesome.
Hi, Susan Westerbrunn, Carlton Drive, and thank you to Dino for moving the sign. I so appreciate it because that was my view outside of my dining room window. So I sent him a picture and he had it moved and I'm very much appreciative. But you're saying that you can still get through on Carlton Drive to Highland Street or you won't be able to get through?
You won't be able to get through in a vehicle. You'll be able to get through on a bicycle, pedestrians, mass transit, and public safety.
Okay, just to let you know, I have a Tennessee Silver Award. I've traveled by bicycle probably at least 35,000 miles, and 10 of them with children. So I'm a fan of multimodal transportation. But I carpool with this beautiful young lady over here who happens to live on Waring Street. And our kids do lacrosse together, often at night. So please tell me how I'm supposed to get to her house or she's supposed to get to my house. And we also carpool for school and other events. So, and my kids work at the Tulo, and this is going to be a huge, huge inconvenience for me. I also go to Santa Cruz because my middle daughter plays the harp. And so this inconvenience is beyond unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know what to do about it. So if you guys can tell me how to handle the situation in a way that's safe for our children, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other member of the public wishing to address the council on any item or on this item? Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a
Please.
comment. Sorry. My name is Tyler Licata. I'm actually a resident of Seaside. I work at Monterey Alternative Medicine down here on Portola. I believe that something like this, we do receive quite a bit of traffic via Seaside, and some of our customers do come from Seaside, and unfortunately this is going to affect the amounts of traffic that's going to be able to be received at our business, therefore cutting down on the tax dollars that you receive. We also carpool. We encourage carpooling due to the traffic issues that are on Portola. We're currently trying to figure out solutions to that, and one of them is carpooling. And like Susan, we do have issues with people being able to come down that way. Basically, that's really all I have to say. I feel that it may be an inconvenience and it may impact tax dollars also in the future. So.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who wish to make a comment on this? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ruth Ann Currents on Carlton Drive, and I disagree with what the other people say. Sometimes change is inconvenient for people, but sometimes we have to make change. That's life. And when you live on Carlton and you see the traffic come down there, so much more than what we used to have, I think it's worth it for some of these people to have some inconvenience to save us from having so much traffic. And when they come up Carlton, as soon as they hit the dip, they gun it. Now, if you're not there all the time to understand this, you wouldn't understand it. But a lot of us have to make changes in life, and we're not comfortable. And there's a few people, maybe yes, they carpool, and I'm not against them, but I think if they understood all the traffic that is coming down our street, then they need to make other provisions. That's my say-so. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other members of the public wishing to address council on this issue?
Hello, my name is Brenda Lewis. I'm a Seaside resident. I was also here last month, and I listened to your proposal for your common effort, and it made sense at the time.
Can't hear her.
I can't hear. Can you speak up? Sure. My name county efforts are really working, or as it feels to many seaside residents, if this is just an exclusionary move, because that is the complaint that I hear a lot. The feeling in Seaside is that your proposed common solutions appear to keep Seasiders out of Delray Oaks while allowing Delray Oaks access to Seaside facilities. The one I hear mentioned most is the dog park. A lot of Delray Oaks residents use the Seaside Dog Park because it's nicer. And I don't think it would ever occur to anybody in Seaside to want to keep you out. But it is causing a lot of hard feelings. I noticed Delray Oaks' vision statement said that you are going to attempt to be interconnected and welcoming. Well, what you say in that statement is not coalescing very well with some of the moves that you're making, because it doesn't feel welcoming to Seasiders, and it certainly doesn't feel like you want to be interconnected with us. I first came here in 1983 when I was stationed as a military family member in San Diego County, and we received orders to transfer to NPS in 6 months. When we mentioned to other military members that we were going to NPS, we got repeated warnings that there were 3 peninsula cities that we did not want to even entertain living in. Unfortunately, Delray Oaks was one of them. That was 35 years ago. I'm sure you weren't aware of the fact that current so-called traffic calming efforts give the definite impression that very little has changed in 35 years.
Well, thank you, ma'am. City manager has a, okay. Anybody else have any comments?
Hello, good evening. I am as well a Seaside City resident who carpools with actually multiple families that live in Delray Oaks, and my children are friends with them. When we bought our house 16 years ago in the location we live, we purchased it because of the convenience. The convenience to get to 218, to get to the schools, to get to work, to get to the highway, to get to the Safeway that's just down the street. This is going to cause a huge inconvenience to my family, to everyone who lives in my neighborhood, and it gives a feeling that you guys want to keep us out. And I do not speed on your streets, and I barely ever even see that much traffic when I drive up and down Carlton. And it seems like a much better idea might be a speed bump or a roundabout, but blockading yourselves off from your neighboring city gives the wrong message. And I am prepared to put together a big speed bump that's in the city of Seaside with all the residents, because I feel so passionate about it. It's just like we were never notified about this to be closure. I never received a letter, an email, nothing. And then all of a sudden, these signs pop up. And I saw it, and it has me so upset. And my children are upset. Oh, Mom, we're going to be late to school in the morning now. And, they're just all worried. So that's what I have to say. And I just hope you guys read it.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, public comment is closed. City manager has a comment.
Yes, so I'd just like to address the very good points that have been made by the public. A couple things. First of all, this process from the start has been data-driven. There is nothing, the very innuendo that it is somehow based on anything but data and safety is frankly insulting to me. And it will continue to be data-driven. The data very clearly shows that there are 7,000 vehicle trips on Carlton Drive, 7,000 vehicle trips on a residential street. As we proceed with this temporary measure, we're going to see where those 7,000 vehicle trips go. And that data is going to inform the recommendations that we bring back to this council in terms of the way forward. And that is all that will inform the decisions that go forward. As we look at the measures of inclusiveness and safety on Carlton Drive and the adjoining streets, Highland, Mescal, and Quendale. As Councilmember Buckley referred to earlier in the statement that he read about transportation and the measures there, it is shown that as we promote cycling and safe pedestrian travel, that interconnects communities. It does nothing but interconnect them. It does not divide them. And so it is with an eye to that, completely understanding, by the way, that we are going to inconvenience some families, undoubtedly, that live on one side and go to another to either pick up someone from their carpool or come the other way. Undoubtedly, we're going to inconvenience some people. But overall, the objectives of making a safer street, a more interconnected community are the objective of the city. And again, we're going to go where the data takes us. The data so far has taken us to this conclusion, and we'll continue to look at that.
No, it's not a discussion, it's, you have a chance to talk to city manager.
No, I
after the meeting.
understand, I just.
Well, that's fine. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have new business, receive a report on Delaware Police Department and Monterey Companies, our Airport District Police Department consolidation. Turn over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to turn it over to our city police chief, Jeff Hoyne. Chief presented this presentation to the airport board recently. It was well received. We got a green light to proceed in terms of planning from them. And a very important step tonight is to inform you of the planning efforts so far and take your guidance on the way. Chief?
Good evening, City Manager, Mayor Elan, council members, members of the public, and members of the police department that are here. I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to present tonight, and I hope this is informative. One of the things that I would like to start out is explain to those folks who don't know is why I'm here. In October of 2017, the City of Delray Oaks and the Monterey Peninsula Airport District entered into an agreement for shared services of their chief of police. This was to maximize the efficiencies of having one chief of police, one salary, and save costs of personnel costs mostly for their chief of police position. As part of this agreement, both the airport district and the city of Delray Oaks charged their chief of police with researching the possibility of collaborating even further, up to and including all police services between the city and the airport district. The city manager, Mr. Pick, and the airport district executive director, Mike Lapeer, gave deadlines of the March 14th airport board meeting, where this was presented first, and the March 27th city council meeting, which is where we're at now. If you look at this initial report, this is one of three phases. I like to look at this as a phased approach. This is just the initial overview of what a consolidated police model would look like, with some basic facts about deployment, how a police department would operate, how it would be structured, and some very initial budget numbers. The next part, should this move forward, would be construction of an implementation plan, at which point the city manager and the airport district executive director would give a deadline on when this implementation plan would be presented to both the council and the airport board. And then, of course, the third phase, if it continues to move forward, would be the actual implementation of that plan. As part of the city council packet and agenda for this month, the city council members, it was published as well, were given a hard copy review of this initial overview. I just want to point out for the city council some of the things that are in this particular packet, just so you know. First is the presentation that I'm about to give. That's the majority of this packet, as well as the city and the airport district's proposed budgets for fiscal year 2018. That becomes important in a little bit. Also, you will see items in there such as a proposed work schedule, which helped put together this consolidation model, And then some other planning documents that you'll see come into play in the next phase, should we move forward. One is a task list, a consolidation task list. This is a living document. This will change as we move forward, but it is a list of important items to put in a timeline to make sure that we're on target should we move forward. And then an example timeline that we've constructed, and also a budget document that's going to help our two budgets speak together, which is a very important part of this project and a very difficult thing to do. You think numbers are numbers, but they're not. So that's in your packet. So this presentation is going to be split up into three particular concepts. One is the challenges that small police departments face. The airport district and the city both have very small police departments, and they face very unique challenges. Second is the goals. What are we trying to accomplish here? And I think that's the most important thing is, why would we do this? We want to know what we're trying to accomplish. And third is some planning information. There we go. So challenges. First, any government agency can tell you that personnel costs are a huge challenge. They take up 80 to 90% depending on what department of your entire budget. Limited staffing in a small police department is always a concern. We have it here at the city, and we also have it at the airport district. Limited supervision. When you have limited staff, there's only a very small amount of people who can be supervisors. Limited administrative oversight. That's very important in the police department. That administrative oversight makes sure that your training program, your budget, your property and evidence program, and other programs that you have to abide by lots of regulations, both through the penal code and through California Peace Officer Standards and Training Board. When you have limited oversight, it only is split up between a couple of people. Recruiting and retention is very difficult to recruit and retain qualified officers, especially for smaller police departments. They want to go to larger police departments with more career opportunities, more promotional opportunities, things like that. We heard the MST CEO talk about recruiting bus drivers. To quote a famous internet meme, hold my beer, because try to get police officers. And then also personnel development. How do we develop our personnel and give them a satisfying career at a small agency? So the goals that we looked at, and the city manager and the airport executive director and I spoke, and we condensed it down to 4 goals. One is reduce the cost and avoid cost increases of police services to both the city and airport district. 2, provide professional police services that are service-oriented, compliant with current regulatory requirements, and in line with contemporary industry standards. 3, provide both jurisdictions with sustainably professional law enforcement services in an equitable and mutually beneficial contract model. And 4th, hire, retain, and provide a professionally fulfillable and career-oriented workplace for quality police department staff. While we did this planning, we looked at current budget review. We did budget comparisons between our combined budgets and what a consolidated police department budget would be. Current staffing and deployment review, how we operate both here and at the airport, and a proposed deployment and scheduling plan. This is a quick breakdown of the police services, both from a monetary and an hourly point of view between the airport police department and the Del Rey Police Department. The one thing I'd like to say, and I'd like to point out, you're going to see budget numbers here, and you're going to see hours. They don't exactly reflect what the proposed budget in each of the airport district and the city have, because we had to start talking apples to apples. We were talking apples to oranges. So when we looked at the budget, there were things in the airport's budget that were not in the city, and vice versa. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Vehicle replacement was in the city budget. In the airport district's budget, that's in the maintenance department. So we had to calculate what the airport's police vehicle replacement costs were and adjust the numbers for the budget that you'll see here. There are also federal grants. The city gets a federal COPS grant for funding police officers the airport receives federal grants from the TSA for assisting in checkpoint screening support. Those were taken out. One is in the budget, one wasn't, so we took that out so that we have a more accurate reflection of what our police departments cost. When you look at the current budget of the airport police department, it is just over $1.4 million, and for the city of Del Rey Oaks, it's just over $1.3 million. When we look at total estimated officer hours, these are the hours that we have to staff our police department. At the airport, for 24-hour-a-day coverage, we have 12,592 hours. That's to have at least one officer on 24 hours a day, but then we also have TSA regulations that require us to have at least 2 officers on 75% of the time that our checkpoint is open, and that's 14 hours a day right now. Here in the city, we only have to have 1 officer on 24 hours a day for a total of 8,760 hours. Those are minimum hours. That's the very minimum that we can afford to have officers out in the field. Total personnel costs, as you'll see in both agencies, make up a large proportion of the budget. At the airport, it's $1.3 million. Here at the city of Del Rey Oaks, it's just over $1 million. So when we look at non-personnel budgets, some of our discretionary funds, contracts, and things like that down at the bottom, $154,000 for the airport police department and just under $300 for the city of Del Rey Oaks. That makes a lot of sense. In the airport, we have what I call less moving parts. We have less cars on the streets, we have a lot of foot patrols, vehicle maintenance is lower, we have a little bit more equipment here in the city based on the types of calls that we have to respond to. Currently, our hours look like this at both Monterey and the city of Del Rey Oaks. Each, and this is pre-chief of police services, I want to point that out, so that we get the apples to apples comparison. This is before you have a chief that works at both places. Both agencies were paying for 1 full-time chief at 2,080 hours. Both agencies had 5 other full-time officers for 10,400 hours. The airport staffs 5,087 part-time officer hours, which are retired Newtons. The city of Del Rey Oaks has 1,120 reserve hours. Both have about 650 overtime hours that they budget. In the airport, we budget for a total of 18,000, just over 18,000 hours, and in the city, just over 14,000 hours. This is a further breakdown of the Del Rey Oaks Police Department when you look at their numbers. Now, when we look at minimum patrol hours, what we actually budget for is 12,173, even though the minimum hours are 8,760. Then, when we add that 12,173, that's with the chief of police, that's with overtime, and that's with our reserve officer hours. And we also have an additional officer, that 5th officer that floats on the schedule, and sometimes we have a 2nd officer hour on, or 2nd officer on staff, but a lot of times those hours are chewed up with sick time, vacations, and things like that. When we look at the amount of hours that we budget for, taking the entire budget, it's about $95 an hour to keep a police officer on the city of Del Rey Oaks when necessary. When we look at the airport, this is the same type of breakdown. We have the minimum patrol hours, but then we also have our budgeted patrol hours. That takes into account the chief of police, overtime, part-time officer hours for 16,134 hours. Average cost per hour is just over $80 an hour. Part of the reason we're able to do that, and I'll explain it a little bit further later, is costs are less because we have a lot of retired annuitants who are only paid an hourly rate and do not have any benefits or retirement costs. When we look at our combined police departments, our combined budgets and hours, we're spending just under $3 million between the 2 entities. Personnel expenses are just under $2.4 million. Or just under $2.4 million. Total number of hours that we have to have staffed between the two are 32,467. Minimum patrol hours, 21,352, and budgeted patrol hours, overtime included, things such as that nature, 28,000 budgeted patrol hours, for an average cost per hour combined of $86.84 an hour. Consolidated, this is where we start looking at what happens if we combine our resources in a more effective and efficient way. consolidated police department budget, and this is a very conservative estimate. This is with positions at the highest step of pay. This is without any other line item budget items being reduced. Simply personnel reduction in costs are reflected on this to give you the most conservative estimate possible. Total budget would be just under $2.5 million. Personnel expenses would be just under $2 million. Total hours that we would budget with overtime, regular officer hours, and reserve officer hours would be 26,289. Minimum patrol hours that we would have to have staffed under the plan, and that's where that schedule comes in that you have in the back of your packet. This is how we constructed this budget. This is how we constructed our deployment. Minimum patrollers would be 20,800. Budgeted patrollers would be 24,209. And to be very conservative, especially in the first year of operation of a budget such as this, we really put in a significant amount of overtime. This is the first time we're doing this. And we want to make sure that if somebody goes on extended leave for whatever reason, that there's a lot of overtime budget in there. So this is a very conservative budget estimate. Average cost per hour is $93.46. Now this is where we bring all the money talk together. When we look at the total budgets, 2.8 combined, consolidated 2.457, for a total budget savings of just over $361,000 between the two budgets. That's the most conservative estimate that we could come up with. That does not take into account other line item savings in the budget. Reduction in costs for training, reduction in costs for vehicles, we can reduce our fleets together, reduction in costs for training, reduction in costs for things like records management system software, dispatching costs perhaps, and various other things that we can find in our line items. A very conservative estimate is another $30,000 to $50,000 in savings that we can take out of the line item budgets. But we didn't want to do that. We want to go very conservative. Personnel costs, you're looking at just under 2.4 combined to just under $2 million consolidated for savings of about $379,000. Now, this is our apples to apples comparison. The budget was taken from proposed budget documents for fiscal year 18, so we had a starting point of what does it cost at the beginning of this fiscal year. Personnel costs, you'll see about a $20,000 separation between those and the total budget savings. That's because we used spreadsheets with pay rates and things like that. One is a proposed budget document, the other is a math calculation where we put in the rates of pay, put in the rates of overtime. Those things change over time, people get promoted, PERS contributions increase and things like that. That's why there's a slight bit of difference there, because there's two data sets that we use, but we got as close as we could. Total number of hours that we currently budget for is 32,467 when we combine the two agencies. Under this consolidation, we're looking at 26,289 for savings of just over 6,000 hours of officer time. Minimum patrol hours, 21,000 combined. Consolidated, just under 21,000. Now you'll see there's those numbers in blue. The reason that those are in blue is I want to point those out. We have to have officers on the street when we have to have officers on the street. And to make sure that our police department is professional and is viable and does what we need to do as a police department, our savings are not going to necessarily be in those minimum patrol hours. Our savings are going to be in those other hours, your overtime, your part-time officer hours, your reserve officer hours, things such as that. When we combine and consolidate our efforts, we're able to take that total hours number that we budget for and budget a much reduced number of hours. So when we look at the average cost per hour, 82 combined, 93 consolidated, there's a difference of $6.64 per hour. The rate goes up because we use less part-time officer hours that the airport typically uses, but we're able to reduce the total amount of hours under this model to where those increase in hours are negated by the vast amount of money we save by using less hours. So this is where we get into staffing levels. This is how we do it. This is how we have our current versus our proposed police services models. When you look at the Monterey Airport, we have chief of police. On day shift, we usually have 2 officers, a lieutenant on one side of the week with an officer, a couple officers on the other side of the week, and at night time, we have 1 officer, either full-time officer or part-time officers, for a total of 5 officers, a chief, and a cadre of part-time officers. And we patrol in a box. We patrol the airport. This is during that time when the checkpoint's open. 75% of the time the checkpoint's open during the day from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have to have 2 officers stationed at the airport, and they patrol in their area. This is current Delray Oaks. Chief of police, sergeant on one end of the week, sergeant on the other end of the week, and again, this is before shared services with the chief of police, an officer on nights on the other end of the week, and a 5th officer over there who's deployed, overlapping in some shifts. But like I said, usually because of the small staff, those hours are chewed up through sick leave, vacation, things like that. Currently, Delray Oaks patrols outside that box in their own box. 1 officer alone most of the time here in the city. When we put together the 2 departments, we have 11 combined full-time employees versus 12. We have 1 chief, 1 commander, 2 sergeants, 1 corporal, and 6 officers. We utilize supplemental officers, be they part-time or reserve officer hours like we have in the city. We have a supervisor on every shift. This helps with accountability, greater level of experience, 24 hours a day out on the street in our neighborhoods, better training, and better evaluation of our employees to make sure that our employees are meeting the standards that we set for them. Day shift staffing would have 3 officers. Night shift staffing would have 2 officers. We would have a reduction of overtime backfill on day shift due to the overlapping personnel between the airport and the city. If we had 3 officers on and 1 had to call in sick, we wouldn't necessarily have to backfill that with overtime. That would be subject to the supervisor or the chief of police saying, we've been busy this week, we have these events going on, yes, we'll fill it with backfill. But we have the ability to save that overtime money. If it's slow, we have 1 officer at the airport, 1 officer at the city, which is what we do sometimes right now anyway. We would increase police presence and visibility in both jurisdictions. Instead of having 1 police vehicle in the city of Delray Oaks, now you have, most of the time, 2 police vehicles in the city of Delray Oaks driving around. And then increase officer safety due to greater availability of backup. This is very important. In the middle of this council meeting, you saw several of us leave. That's because our single officer happened to see an injury accident in front of him. It happened in the city of Monterey, but he still had to take action. Difficulty in getting back up to him, had to go through the Monterey dispatcher, the Monterey officer dispatch to help him. And then we couldn't get communications with him, and we didn't have a second officer out there. This officer ended up getting in a foot chase, getting in a scuffle, having to tackle this person, having citizens help him. Having another officer listening to the radio to be out there to help his partner 24 hours a day is very important. Consolidated deployment would look like this. We'd have a chief of police running the administrative side of the police department. On day shift, A squad, you'd have a commander, an airport officer, and a city officer. An officer would be assigned at the airport, officer would be assigned in the city, and we would have our supervisor. Same thing on the other end of the week with the sergeant. Those officers are interchangeable. They could split shifts, they could work in both jurisdictions, they'd be cross-trained. On night shift, you would have a sergeant or a corporal, along with another officer. Again, extending the reach of the supervision of those officers, having a partner on for officer safety purposes. And quite frankly, in the police world, if you're working with somebody else, you're more motivated. You're going to be out there backing each other up on calls, you're going to be driving through the neighborhoods more, you're going to be covering more ground, you're going to be providing greater services to the citizens. So currently, if this is during checkpoint operations during the day, when we normally would have 2 officers on the airport, it would look more like this. We have a terminal officer, we have a district officer, and we have a supervisor on. If the airport needed backup, we could pull in that car. If it was a big incident, we could pull in the other car, thereby erasing that box that we all operate in, and we stay out of each other's box. Now, we erase those jurisdictional lines, and those 3 cars are free to go, respond to calls in either jurisdiction. It increases the availability of police officers in either jurisdiction. We can pull 3 officers out in the city of Delray Oaks for an incident, we can put 3 officers into the airport. Same thing at night. Now we don't have to have an officer assigned 24 hours a day in the airport, in the terminal. That gets those officers out. It's that little bit of competition. It's covering your partner. And again, if an incident occurs at the airport, 1 or both officers can respond to calls for service there. It erases those jurisdictional lines. The airport basically becomes part of the city of Delray Oaks for police patrol purposes. The officers will do business checks. They'll make sure that they're checking on the AOA, and they'll handle calls for service. So remember, we talked about the goals. What are the goals? The first one was reduce the cost and avoid cost increases. Significant cost savings are achieved through the elimination of 1 full-time officer position, and that's your most expensive one. Me. Well, hopefully not me. A consolidated schedule in this deployment plan that we're talking about allows for a reduction in budget officer hours of approximately 6,000 hours without a reduction in service. In many cases, you'll see increased service, especially in visibility and the ability of officers to respond appropriately in emergency circumstances with more than 1 officer. Cost savings can also be realized in those other line items. Training, records management, policy manual. I'll give you an example. Both agencies pay about $4,000 a year just for policy manual management through an outside agency. That's $4,000 out of the budget right there, above and beyond what we've already talked about. Same thing with our records management, about the same cost, $3,000 to $4,000. We're doubling a lot of our costs here. The other goal, provide professional police services, service-oriented, compliant with current regulatory requirements, contemporary standards. Consolidation provides greater visibility and response capacity. Supervision and administrative oversight will increase with supervisors assigned each shift. Increased training in post and penal code regulated topics will provide a more professional workforce. It reduces our risk and it reduces the city's and the airport's liabilities. The department with the most liability in any government organization is usually your police department. Third goal, provide both jurisdictions with sustainably professional law enforcement, equitable and mutually beneficial model. Costs are 10 to 15% less if we combine our resources and our deployment. City and the airport district have unique policing needs that can be complementary. The airport needs people to be able to respond, and it's required by TSA, it's mandated. So they have to have somebody there, or have the capability to be there. The city really needs more than 1 officer so that it can respond to calls safely, sufficiently. So they need the response, they need the officer working. When we combine those 2, it's complementary. And then a larger, professionally trained, well-managed police agency can recruit and retain a more diverse and professional staff. It's hard. You think recruiting bus drivers is hard. You try and find police officers who can get through a background check, who can get through a medical check, who can come here and stay here after we train them and not look for greener pastures somewhere else. That happens a lot. The smaller the agency, the more difficult that is. And the last goal is to hire, retain, and provide professionally fulfillable and career-oriented workplace for quality police department staff. My officers are important to me. That's one of the few times you're going to hear me say me, my, me. I'm the accidental police chief. I never thought I'd be a police chief. I didn't plan on doing this. But I said, man, one day, if I was the chief, this is what I would do. This is what I would do. I'd make it a better place for my employees. Because I've been that employee for close to 30 years now. Larger police agency offers our officers more specialty assignments and more training. It would allow for greater career advancement by providing some more supervisory positions and different levels of management, which allows for more training and more career development. And it allows for greater administrative oversight and management. So those things like the training program that we get audited on by post, those things like our property and evidence function that gets audited by the Department of Justice, When we have more supervisors, when we have better trained people, those things don't fall off the table. Those things don't cause risk or liability to the city, because we have people that we can assign those to. It enhances their career, it enhances our department, and it keeps the city out of trouble. Next steps, where do we go from here? This is just a quick overview. We're awaiting the board of directors at the airport and city council guidance on this. Do we move forward? Do we move into that planning phase? We develop a line item budget. That last document in your packet, that's the spreadsheet that we're going to use to make those two budgets talk together. We're already thinking about this, we're already planning, we're already ahead. When we go through line item by line item, we want to translate what's in each of those line items, and we'll use that particular document so that we're talking apples to apples. And we can tell you what it's going to cost you for the next budget cycle. Contract development, looking at a contract between the airport district and the city for the city's police department, their upgraded, larger, more professional police department, to provide contract services to the airport district. And then timeline and transition planning. That's the timeline and the task list that you see that will continue to grow, and we'll be calculated should we move forward. And then the last step would be implementation. When we present in a few months, and you can put it out as far as you like, what an implementation plan would look like. If we get to go ahead, then that timeline and that task list would be our guide and help us down the path to get things accomplished in the manner that the city council and the airport district would like. Questions?
Chief, that was an absolutely outstanding presentation. Thank you. Thorough, easy to understand. Again, thank you for all the work you and our city manager put together on this. Does the city council have any questions, comments at this time?
Just a comment, just to echo, exceptional presentation, exceptional content in this book. I think our biggest risk is losing you to teach the business school.
Here. Any other comment? Yes.
No, you're going to take it up to the public.
Yes, okay.
So I'll hold up. I was just going to say, I want to move that we accept staff recommendation.
Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm is almost as much as out to the public. Any, I'm sorry, you was Vice Mayor Clark first.
I just have one other question. When you took into account all these expenses, did you take into account, like with the Laguna Seca and the work that we do with them, and don't we get reimbursed with Laguna Seca for some of the extra expenses?
We do. We left that out of the budget so that we can compare apples to apples. Something like that where we provide services and it costs up front, but then we're reimbursed. We're actually, it's too difficult to add that into the budget to compare the two. So.
And how we're working the Laguna Seca with the officers, that this will be better, or?
Well, we would have more staff to do it. It would be easier on the officers as far as the amount of hours that they're working. And you've seen this last year with staff shortage. Got a commander there that, boy, he lives here. We actually built a bedroom. We want to avoid that. And I think an increased staff, when we do have those staff shortages, helps us to fill in without running. Some of these people have given a lot to their community, running them around.
And when you start charging the commander rent, the big he was living here at Walker's 24 hours a day. Other
Again,
comments?
thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Up to the public. Questions, comments by members of the public? Okay, seeing none, coming back to the council. Councilmember Allen is always the first with the mostest. Do you would like to make a motion?
I'd like to move that we accept staff recommendation to continue the detailed planning on this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second in discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Chief, again, outstanding presentation here. You're honored and blessed to have you as our chief of police. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no correspondence. We've been going to closed session as per Government Code Section 51956 at SEC. The council may adjourn to a closed session to consider specific matters dealing with certain litigation, personnel, or labor/real property negotiations. The topics we will have will be 1, conference with legal counsel, update on anticipated litigation, significant exposure to and initiation of litigation, as per Government Code Section 54956.9, subparagraph D, 1 case. We also have a conference with legal counsel to this litigation, William Lipp et al. Versus City of Del Rio Oaks, Monterey County Superior Court number 180Charlie00221, Government Code 54956.9, subparagraph Delta 1. We also have a real property negotiation, property description, approximately 17.7 acres, APN 259-011-25. City negotiators, Daniel Pick, city manager, negotiating parties, Scott Donaldson, Donna Roscoe, and Raphael Payan. Under negotiation of price and terms under Government Code Section 54956.8. Prior to going into the closed session, does any member of the public wish to have to provide comment on any of the closed session items? Yes, sir.
Just quick, Tim Lane, Mayor and Council, here for your window. I know we now know about the Government Code 54222 requiring we dispose, before we dispose of the 17.7 acres of city land, we must send a written offer to sell or lease the property to the various government agencies, the two that seem to be applicable in this situation are the Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District and the California Natural Resources Agency. Raphael Payan, the Parks District General Manager, is listed as a negotiating party, we saw that, and it was stated tonight that he has expressed interest in part or all of the land. Again, discussed item in 54222, the agency contacted has 60 days to respond from the day they received the offer. So we'd like to ask us when, get confirmation of when the day of receipt was, so we know when that 60-day period is going to run. And also we'd like to see the presentations from the Park District, assuming we'll see that, if they are in fact interested in pursuing the 17 acres. And also we need to, before we do anything, we also need to reach out to the Natural Resource Agency, so hopefully that will be forthcoming as well, as soon as we can keep this moving along. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments from the public? Okay, our city attorney will address that issue.
Just wanted to clarify, I think the speaker referenced the Surplus Land Act, which is applicable only when the city makes the determination that it A, has surplus land, and B, seeks to dispose of that land. And to my mind, no such decision has been made to this point.
Okay, that being said, we are now adjourning in open session. We'll reconvene in closed session once the city council chambers are clear. Thank you very much for showing up this evening. I think it was very, very informative for all of us. We'll continue to try and do as much of this as possible to keep things going. We're adjourned. We're reconvening in open session after having gone through closed session deliberation. I'm going to turn over to city manager to report out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following closed session, Council provided confidential negotiating guidance to its negotiator concerning the parcel in question.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're adjourned.